Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rage and Love, where we passionately debate, explore, and review topics about religion, science, and history. I am with Joey, or Cognitive Echo.
Hey,
Hello,
what's
how are
up?
you?
Hey, doing good. And today we're gonna have a special guest with us, and he's actually a good friend. He's actually he's a relative, and but I say he's a good friend. So let's welcome to the stage, Catching Monsters, guys. Are you ready for this?
What's up, guys? What's up? Let's
What's going
go.
on, Catching Monster? What's going on,
What's up?
man?
What's up? Nah, I just had a hot dog. Ready to
You had a
talk.
hot dog, huh?
Yep.
Well, welcome to the show. Let's let AJ give a little background on what the show is going to be about this evening. We look forward to some deep thoughts here, deep conversation, and should be fun, guys. I hope everyone decides to hang out with us.
Yeah, I mean, today we're going to focus a little bit on what it means for humans to be conscious, to have dreams, to have hallucinations, like basically kind of how the mind works. A lot of people have questions about whether these experiences that they have, whether they be dreams or whether they be hallucinations or visions, are they real? Are they coming from a supernatural place? Are they coming from the mind? What's the story there behind them? And we have Damien today because I'm going to first start with saying that everybody, I hope in the chat, will be very respectful because all of us here have different beliefs. For example, I'm a little bit further down in my deconstruction from religion than Joe is, right? He's kind of in the middle. And Damien, he's a believer, so he's a theist. And we always have extremely respectful conversations where we both see both of our sides and we share, and I really enjoy this type of conversation, so I hope that everybody will be mindful of that and respect his views as well as they always respect ours.
And hopefully we can have some good dialogue back and forth, even with our viewers, in terms of that. So I look forward to this. It should be some good conversation.
Yeah, so Damien, do you want to maybe what what led you to want to be on our show? Obviously, like the main theme is like we said, hallucinations and dreams and visions. Like what led you to having these questions that you thought you could share with us?
Yeah. So I know we disagree on the topic about higher power or not, but I basically I wanted to give you a better understanding of why I believe in what I believe in. Um, I'm not giving you the whole story because there's a lot of personal stuff, but I'm gonna give you just some details. That's it. So about dreams, hallucinations, I just want to get a better, get
Understanding, yeah.
yeah, from what
That's
you
cool.
think. But
Yeah, I think when we did our very first video together, about the epistemology, and epistemology is basically understanding your own beliefs, like how you reach the conclusions that you reach.
mhm,
And we usually, no matter what side of the coin you are, we all need to use that, myself included, right? Like, why do I believe that I don't believe in a God, right? Like,
mhm,
I would have to give you and sort of an understanding of that, and you give me your understanding of why you believe what you believe, so we kind of help each other understand our own perspectives a little bit
mhm.
better by asking questions. So
Yeah,
I hope we can do that today.
I'm excited. Yeah,
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun here. So I forgot that this is actually not the first time we've done a video with Damien. Maybe some people that joined us this evening will actually watch that first video that you did with both of us.
Yeah, that was a really interesting video where we talk about what constitutes objective and subjective truth, and it was a fun video to do. Yeah, the audio wasn't the best, but I think the content was pretty great.
So what do you got for us tonight, AJ?
So let's start with, I would say, the first thing that when we're talking about these types of concepts, the first need to clarify is what is consciousness, right? Like, what do you guys define? What would you say is your definition of consciousness? It doesn't matter if it's not like the dictionary definition, just so we can each understand where we stand. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I can go
So,
first. For me,
all right.
I see it as just of being aware, and being able to interact, I guess, as a man, that's kind of hard for me to explain it, I guess, in my own view. But I mean, my to be conscious, to have that is to have feelings, to have emotions, to be able to, yeah, I would say feelings and emotions are probably like the key things that would make me, that I would
Okay.
describe that term with.
All right. What about you, Damien? Do you agree with that one, or do you have like a
I
different sort of?
I completely agree with that, but I would also add um, sympathy to that list, just to like just being aware that people go through different things than you do. Trying to understand other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good one to add. I would agree with that, and I could add that to my view as well.
Okay, so yeah, I have a similar view of it, right? But when I looked it up, for the show, because I wanted to have like an actual definition, so it is pretty similar to what you guys said. It says it's awareness of by the mind of itself and the world. So basically, you are aware that you are you, and that somebody else is, another person, that they're not the same person.
Yeah.
So the way that the brain works to achieve consciousness. A lot of people see consciousness as coming from God, right? But the way that science has defined consciousness, although it isn't a 100% set definition, there is a lot of neurologists and neurobiologists that have a little bit of differences in their, uh, I guess, the way that they see consciousness. But the main idea is that our brain has a lot of neurons, right? And each neuron is going to connect with one another. So what they do is they use something called a neurotransmitter, and neurotransmitters are kind of like messengers. And when one side releases the messenger and the other one receives the messenger, and once the message is transmitted, the neurotransmitter comes back to its original spot. So that is what makes every single action that you take place, from breathing, um, being able to feel pain when you touch something hot, from feeling the sun burning on you, from hearing somebody, from seeing the waves of lights that we see as colors. Pretty much anything, your temperature, like I said, your heartbeat, your breathing, all of these functions are controlled by neurons and the neurotransmitters. So what specific parts of the brain do is they communicate with each other through these neurotransmitters to form your conscious thoughts. Like if you're touched by something and you have your eyes closed, then these most of your neurotransmitters that are going to be transmitted are from touch neurons, like from like sensory neurons. And you're gonna feel that sensation, and then your brain is gonna sort of try to find a pattern to connect it to. Like, is it a hand that's touching me? Is it a bug? Is it wet? Is it dry? Is it rough? So your brain is gonna start filling in the blanks because you're not using your visual senses. So all of this again is done through completely through neurotransmitters. Every one of these actions. Some of these neurotransmitters are, as you know, adrenaline, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine. Those are the main ones that we think of. Like serotonin is the one that makes you happy. Adrenaline is the one that you use when you're in danger, you're stressed out. Oxytocin is like the bonding one when you're, I don't know, when a mother gives birth or breastfeeds, or when you give somebody a really nice, heartfelt hug. Even when people have sex, they release oxytocin. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. Like it's a bonding hormone. It's a bonding neurotransmitter. So the more
Nice.
you physically touch somebody, the more you're gonna feel that
Nice.
because you're releasing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
It
true,
gives you
right?
it gives you that happiness
Yeah.
of feeling, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and dopamine is the one that we sort of seek, um, because it activates the reward parts of your brain, like when you're drinking a soda or coffee, or something that you really enjoy, your wings.
Oh, I
Right,
love
when you're
small
eating
wings.
wings, like your brain probably just produce a little bit because you're thinking of that,
Yeah,
so it
yeah,
makes you like crave it.
yeah.
So when any of those are unbalanced, you're gonna have you're gonna have all kinds of things, like all kinds of sensations that are not the normal. All right. One example.
Basically your brain will be misfiring. The
Mhm.
neurons are misfiring when they're off balance. Would that be a
Yeah,
good way to
yeah,
describe it?
So that's why
yeah.
that's how people have like hallucinations and etc.
Right.
I
Right?
think she was about to get there and I interrupted her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
that's cool. No, no, no. That was a good assumption. That was a correct assumption. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, I'm gonna show a little short video of what happens when people drink a lot of alcohol, which we all have experience with that.
Yeah. Beer belly, right?
So, puke buckets.
Big
Yeah.
buckets.
All right, so I'm gonna play this one. It's, it's just like 3 minutes, so let me know if you can hear it.
12 p.m.
Yeah.
The light burns, your head throbs, and you have no recollection of how you got back home. Don't worry, you're not alone. More than half of college students experience blackouts, according to several studies. And let's be clear, blacking out doesn't mean passing out. You were probably awake and aware the entire night. So then, where did all those memories go? Let's rewind to Friday night. Normally, whenever you have an experience, like a conversation, a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex stores that information in short term memory. Then another part of your brain, called the hippocampus, weaves those experiences together so they can be stored away as long term memories. So the next day, you remember the party as a whole instead of smell of sweat, house music, Jen was there. But here's the key part. Storing these episodes in long term memory requires special neurotransmitters. But your liquor shots prevent the neurotransmitters from working properly. So, instead of remembering the party, all you have is an incomplete or even empty file. And the amount of alcohol in your system at the time influences how much you remember. Let's say you're a 73-kilogram adult man, and you've done 8 shots in 1 hour. Your blood alcohol content is probably around 0.2% by this point, more than twice the legal limit for driving a car. And your brain may still be able to store some memories, so you end up with islands of memories separated by missing sections. That's called a fragmentary blackout, aka a grayout or brownout. But if you keep pounding those shots, it gets worse. Within the next half hour, you pound back another 4 shots. Now your blood alcohol content hits around 0.3%, and your hippocampus goes dark, and full amnesia sets in. This is called an en bloc blackout. And once you wake up, that entire night could be blank. Push your BAC much higher than that, and you might die. And yet, your friends might not even realize you're in the middle of a blackout,
Oh, that's
since the
cool.
alcohol didn't delete your long-term memories already safe in storage before the night began. So you can still carry on conversations and behave more or less like a typical person, to an extent. Blackouts aside, alcohol can still interfere with other regions of your brain, including those responsible for reasoning and decision making. So during blackouts, people have crashed cars, gotten into fights, and committed or been the victims of sexual assault. They might just not remember it. That being said, not everyone gets blackouts. Your sex, body weight, and family history all play a role. So that could explain why your
Interesting.
friends recall the entire night, despite downing just as much tequila. But it
That's true.
I've never
So
blacked out.
so alcohol is unable to block the function of the, what was it,
GABA.
Hippopotamus.
GABA.
GABA. So
Yeah. So GABA is one of the neurotransmitters, kind of like we said, oxytocin or dopamine. It's just that there's more, but the ones that I mentioned are the main ones that people know of. So
But
yeah,
that
when
I'm sorry. Well, I was gonna say so that is actually key to the memories being stored or as a long term memory though. You're saying right?
right, because the hippocampus uses that specific neurotransmitter, well, and others, right? But that's one of the main ones that it uses to transmit the information from one neuron to another to tell it to save it into the hippocampus as a long term memory. So when when there's not enough of that neurotransmitter to be sent to be sending the messages, then that memory is just not going to be saved at all. It's just going to be
Gotcha.
lost. Yeah. So you can be there and you can see something, but you're not going to remember it. You're not going to store it as a memory.
But it,
Question:
yeah, go ahead,
uh,
Damien.
does that work similarly to like when you're sleepwalking? Because I have a history of like sleepwalking a lot, and I don't remember anything, but I'm still
uh
doing it.
I'm not extremely familiar with sleepwalking, but I do think that it is a similar process,
Process.
because when you're sleeping, what your brain is actually doing is storing memories, like the memories that it didn't have the bandwidth or the time to store fully during the day. When they're happening, then it waits until you're sleeping, and you're not doing anything else, like your body is kind of resting, and it's allowing the brain to work over time to
That's
like process
crazy.
that, yeah, to process a lot more, like not just your memories but your feelings and how you felt about that specific memory.
So I sleepwalk a lot because of my ADHD technically.
Yeah, so
Because I can't. I do sleepwalk a lot and talk
it probably
You
has
talk in your
to
sleep.
do.
You're saying?
a lot and sleepwalk.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I
I have
think
a story too about that. Not sure if I can share it. Can I
yeah,
share it? Yeah,
I mean, if you feel comfortable
yeah.
with it.
I
about
mean,
about
it's not.
sleepwalking? Yeah, share it
Yeah,
with us if you're
the
okay with it.
so yeah, it's not a bad story. It's just when I was a kid, I had to use the restroom, but somebody was in the restroom, so I fell asleep, right, and I knocked out. And then I don't know what happened, but my dad's telling me, he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I went outside to use the restroom." It's 3 in the morning. What do you mean? I was like, "What the heck?" But I don't remember going outside, like in the apartments and going to the bayou and doing all that.
But you walked all the way to the bayou
There
without
was a
realizing
there
it.
was a bayou right there,
And how old
but
were you at this
Mm.
time?
I
You
was
were
like 8 years old. I unlocked
wow,
the
wow.
door and I walked out.
Do you think you made it all the way there, or do you think you're like? Do you remember walking all the way there?
I don't.
You
I
don't.
don't.
Okay,
I just remember like
just
my
telling
dad
him off.
talking to me about it. Like I
Like
guess I
Uh,
woke up.
so he saw you like down by the bayou though.
I don't know. I wouldn't be right in front of the door, and
Oh,
there was
okay.
no
So you're
people.
not so you're not sure if you walked to the bayou or
I'm
not,
not
right?
sure, but the
Okay.
bayou's pretty close. So
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right.
That's pretty dangerous, man.
Yeah.
I know, and
Well,
I
I
did
mean,
that
that's
once. Like,
sleepwalking can be very dangerous. I mean, I've seen some
Yeah,
crazy stories and videos of people, and I mean, I've always heard them say you're not supposed to wake up a person if they're sleepwalking.
why
Um,
is that?
yeah, do you know the reasoning behind that? Like why you're not supposed to wake someone up if they're sleepwalking?
I've heard that too, but I don't really know. Maybe you should find us a
Mm,
video, Joe, while we continue the
yeah,
conversation,
All right,
like a
we
y'all.
short video on sleepwalking, and see what goes on, because I don't know, my theory from what I understand of the brain a little bit, would be that it definitely has to do with the amount of neurotransmitters that are flowing through the brain when we're sleeping, because we it lowers our motor function, right? Like we're pretty much uh in a state of rest, like we're not moving around, we're not doing anything unless you're dreaming, then sometimes you might twitch a little bit. So I think it lowers the function of the part of your brain that deals with movement. So I'm wondering if maybe for people that sleepwalk, if that's actually increased or left as normal as when you're awake, and so you have a higher response to your dreams telling you to move. because sometimes when you're dreaming, you're speaking whatever you're dreaming about, and then somebody wakes you up. Like it's like your physical body is taking part in that memory. Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe it has something to do with that. That would be my theory of that.
Well, I'm gonna search for a video, but I want to try to find something that gives more of an explanation than something long, just so we can get
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
better
like
view of
a
what actually causes it. While I look
yeah,
for
like a
this,
short 3 minute or something like that. Yeah.
can y'all discuss the video that we just watched though? Because at the very end of the video, it stated that not everybody is affected the same in
Yeah.
terms of having blackouts based on the amount of liquor. They were saying that someone the same size, weight as if you had two people the same size, same weight, and they drink the same amount of alcohol, one person might actually have a blackout, but the other might not due to their the
The
genealogy.
race.
It said based on family history.
Yeah.
What was it? Do you have more information on that? I mean, you're the one that had located that video. I thought maybe you had more in-depth knowledge of that at the end.
Yeah.
No.
No, I think it was kind of saying that, yeah, that it has to do with your genetics,
Yeah. Okay.
and
It was genetics. Okay.
meaning meaning like how sensitive maybe you are to like the blockage of specific neurotransmitters, or rather the speed at which they transmit. So some people may be more sensitive to the alcohol, right? Like even if they're the same size or not, or some people whose family uh, drinks a lot, they may build a tolerance, and then we do pass on that type of genetics to our kids. So your kids may have a higher tolerance for alcohol than an average child the same age and size. Okay, I'm sorry, that came out wrong. Please don't let your children drink. I'm talking about like
Yeah, we're
we
not
are
advocating
we are not.
underage drinking.
Yeah, I just realized I started talking about children. Wait a minute.
Hey, we have Ronald actually in the channel this evening with his, and
Hey, Ronald.
he said, "I think you're supposed to try to guide them back to bed." So I've heard that as well. That's what I've always been told is, if you come across a sleepwalker, don't try to wake them. Try to exactly what you said. Lead them back to their bed and get them back to sleep. Well, they're already asleep, but get them back comfortable in a safe environment, basically, without waking them and scaring them.
That's definitely not what Mama did though.
That's not what Mama did.
She screamed at us.
Mama knows best.
All right, let's see here, guys.
All right.
You find something?
Yeah, I found a short video here that I think we can watch.
All right, let's check it out.
Let me make sure there. Hold on.
I guess also for the people in the stream, do y'all want to like update them what we were talking about? Because there's a couple
Yeah,
new people that joined.
yeah, it looks like we have a few more people. So we
Yeah.
are talking basically about what how the brain processes all of the mostly memories, right? Like how you make a short-term memory into a long-term memory, and how neurotransmitters are what lead to communication between neurons, and that pretty much control every single one of our actions, including the way that we perceive the world and the way that we think. And then we started talking about dreams. Yeah, dreams
Yeah.
are very important for memory consolidation, or how to process uh, long-term storage of memories. And Damien was sharing that he often has uh, episodes of sleepwalking. So Joey is going to show us a video about what causes maybe sleepwalking, or what the mechanism is, perhaps.
Yeah, let's see here. I mean, this is my first time watching this video as well, so hopefully it's good.
I can't hear your
Sleepwalking,
audio.
or somnambulism, involves walking and other behaviors that are performed during incomplete arousal from sleep. Sleepwalking episodes can last for anywhere from a few seconds to longer than 30 minutes. And sleepwalking behaviors can vary in their complexity, from basic behaviors such as pointing or walking around a room to complicated procedures like getting dressed, cooking, or driving a car. Sleepwalkers may be difficult to arouse during a sleepwalking episode and confused when they awake from one, and they may have complete or partial amnesia for the episode. Sleepwalking occurs more frequently in children than in adults, but childhood sleepwalking is typically benign, while adult sleepwalking is more likely to result in injury to the sleepwalker or others. During sleep, the brain transitions through several stages characterized by unique patterns of brain activity. Sleepwalking typically occurs during stage 3 non-REM sleep, also known as slow wave sleep. The neuroscience underlying sleepwalking is not completely understood, but current evidence suggests that it may emerge from a coexistence of wake and sleep-like activity occurring in different parts of the brain at the same time. For example, some studies of sleepwalkers during sleepwalking episodes have found brain activity suggestive of wakefulness in areas like the motor cortex, which is involved with movement, but activity
Interesting.
suggestive of slow wave sleep in areas involved in complex cognition and conscious awareness, such as the prefrontal cortex. This type of incongruity might explain why sleepwalkers move around with limited awareness of their actions. Wake-like activity during sleep in other areas of the brain, such as those involved in emotional reactions, could explain other aspects of sleepwalking, such as the fact that many sleepwalkers report experiencing strong emotions associated with their episodes. On the other hand, persistence of sleep states in areas like the hippocampus, which is involved in memory consolidation, could explain why sleepwalkers sometimes do not remember the sleepwalking incident or certain aspects of it.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty similar to what I had in mind, especially the part about remembering it, right?
Yeah, you were spot on, correct. I
Yeah, that's,
actually, yeah, with the motor, a part of the brain that said, I actually kicked the wall. Like I kicked a big old hole in the wall when I was
Yeah, so
sleeping.
that's where the movements of sleepwalking comes from because your actual that part of your brain is actually awake while it's still in a REM. Well, it's a
yeah,
that would be a level above actual
yeah,
REM.
but sort of like your vision is not so like you're not seeing, so you're kind of just like randomly like going by memory, I guess,
Well, I
whatever you
guess
want to go.
yeah, yeah.
I guess a question too. What about dreams? Does that connect to that part, to that topic too, or no?
Well, yeah, because I think
Yeah,
you could be dreaming because you're basically in a
Yeah,
dream state, but you're
yeah,
using your movement part of the well, the part of your brain that controls movement is actually active. So if in your dream, I guess if you think you're swimming, then you
yeah.
might be doing
then you're gonna
swimming
make those
movements,
movements.
those
Yeah,
movements, yeah,
Or
because
peeing.
yeah,
well, our peeing, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
But
sleep,
yeah, that's okay. That's why people have those type of dreams where they may pee on their bed because they're dreaming that they're on the toilet. So
yeah,
your body is doing whatever it's doing both the
that is
sleep
true. So
and the
your
awake.
muscles, yeah, your muscles that would
Yeah,
normally keep your bladder closed so you don't urinate would actually be controlled with that part of your brain, right? So you would
yeah,
actually let yourself pee.
so
Wow.
we can all agree that our dreams are uh, an aspect of reality, basically.
yeah. There are.
Right.
The thing is
It's
that when
well,
when the brain is processing so much information from the outside, it's it's having to make a decision of what's most important, right? There is too much information at once. Even right now, as we all are in separate rooms, there's so much going on that our brain is blocking everything that's around us and just focusing on what it
Yeah,
thinks it has to focus on.
yeah,
So if there was like a light next to me and I look quickly, it might look like something completely different. I might have to look again to make sure that what I saw was the correct thing.
yeah.
Because it's and that's because while we are seeing all these things, we are not registering them fully.
Hmm.
So those are the parts that our brain takes care of when we're sleeping, basically. The things that you didn't pay attention to but that you did see, so then your brain is taking out those plus the ones that it did pay attention to and mixing them all together to determine which ones are going to go into long term, which ones are going to go into short term, and which ones it can just completely like, get rid of.
Trash.
And yeah, it can also trash old memories that you haven't thought about in so long, and it just like
Really?
completely gets rid of them. Yeah, kind of like a computer fragmentation, sort of when you like when
getting
you
rid of old
defragment the
files.
computer, yeah, to make room for more, basically.
No way.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
as human beings, we are destined to forget about our past, basically.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you can definitely just like you can forget a language, right? Like if you don't use I don't speak Spanish a lot, and sometimes when I have to speak Spanish with somebody, I'm like, I completely forget like certain words, and people have to help me think
Yeah.
of what they were, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Like it wasn't even registered in my brain to what that word was anymore. So
Wow.
the less you think about specific events, the further back they sort of go into the line of memories that may one day become completely erased.
Is that why, as human beings, we're so fixated on the bad memories? Is that
Yeah,
why?
the reason for that is the amygdala. That's a part of the brain that deals with emotions, especially strong emotions, not necessarily positive ones, but like the ones that made you fearful or when you felt in danger. And why the reason for that is because those increase your neurotransmitters so much that your body feels it really really strongly. And so these memories use those neurotransmitters, those emotions, and the parts of the brain that fix it into a long-term memory, and they make it into a really sort of core memory that you're not gonna forget very easily. Whereas if it was um something that happened the same day, but where you didn't respond so emotionally to, then you may remember that part of the day more, the one with the heightened emotion, than the part of the day where your emotions were more calm. Like somebody might tell
Yeah.
you, "Hey, that was the same day," and you'd be like, "Oh, like you don't even remember it being the same day." So yeah, emotions definitely help set your memories as a more stable long term memory, you could say.
Because they're connected to an emotion, and you can, I guess it makes it easier to remember certain events if you have it
Yeah,
connected to an emotion, like a happy event, like a birthday party, I guess, or like, you know, birth of your new child, you know. So it stores it quicker in long-term memory, you're saying, based off that, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What about trauma though? So trauma, like memories that you have of trauma before, I guess before, let's say the age 5, where you don't actually really have memory. Like I know we talked about trauma in our last video,
Yeah.
but how does
Yeah,
the
I don't know if Damien was watching that part of the video where we were talking about how there's a lot of research into the fact that before age 5, um, the hippocampus is not fully developed, and that's the part of the main part of the brain. There's a several, but that's the one where memory is stored specifically. So it's so small at that point, and it doesn't finish developing until age 5 to 7. So most people don't really have any memories before age 5 because of that, because the sort of the neurons didn't make the connections all the way properly. So all these memories were just being stored as temporary, as they will sometimes they can last a few days, they can last a few weeks depending on the age. For newborn babies they can be just like a moment, like a momentary memory, and then it just goes away. So there is other research that has shown that that is also the time from birth to age 5 or 7 where most of our brain connections are made, and that's the way that your neurons are going to fire, like how sensitive they are to the neurotransmitters, how much of each neurotransmitter they're going to release during certain situations. Like say if you're exposed to a lot of trauma, then your neurons are going to be firing a lot of neurotransmitters because you're feeling a lot of emotions. And as you grow, those same pathways remain the same. So when you come up at a later age with a similar situation, you're going to respond by releasing a lot of that. Whereas if somebody is raised in a very loving home, all their needs are met, the babies are not let to cry it out, they're clean, they're taken care of,
They don't remember that.
then they don't have that because they don't have to experience that type of strong emotion
Mm.
or neglect. So they
Yeah.
grow up in a more like their brains develop in a more stable way. And when they grow up and they face certain situations that are stressful, they don't respond in a stressful way. They respond in a calm manner, in a, collected. They reason, and they know how to figure it out. So
Mhm.
that's the difference. And it can be two babies raised in the same home, right? Let's say they are 2 years apart. They're born 2 years apart. And the first one, the mom was stressed out because it was the first baby, and maybe she was a single mom and she had to work overtime. The baby feels that stress and grows up with anxiety. Then the second baby comes, and the mom is, I don't know, she's found a stable partner, but they both have a job. She's a second time mom. She knows the drill. She knows how to take care of the baby, so she's more chill. So the baby doesn't feel stressed out. No sort of a trauma, and so the baby grows to be not having anxiety, not having depression or all of those type of developmental. So they're siblings, they're from the same parents, they're raised in the same home, but their environment shapes their brain in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty deep. It's pretty crazy to think that events at such a young age can shape, how we react to things when we're older. But I mean, it is a good way to actually think about how deep trauma like affects the human mind basically, and how the mind
yeah.
reacts to trauma.
And there's one of the doctors that I listened to a lot about this topic, and he always shares his own story. And he was born in Hungary, I think it was, during the World War. And so his mom was Jewish, and when the Nazis were coming to take over all the Jews from their area, his mom decided to give him away because he was like 2 months old, and she just gave him to a complete stranger in the street because that person was someone that wasn't a Jewish person, and that could take the baby and keep the baby, right? So a few months later, they reconnected, and the baby was returned when things calmed down. But during those months, the baby felt the disconnect. He felt he did he did not remember these memories later, right? He did not remember being given away, or being during there during the war, and his
But
with the
yet
Jewish
he
people. But his body remembered the emotions, the crying because he
of
missed his
abandonment
mom,
basically, not having
right?
his mom.
Right.
Yeah.
So this, when we talk about trauma, you have to think that it's not necessarily like having a car accident or having a surgery. It's like it can be something as small as somebody not changing their baby when they're crying, or things that the baby feels emotion, like strong emotions about. And
I
because,
have a question.
yeah, yeah, go for
I
it.
mean, so how do you guys think trauma could affect, like, can trauma and dreams actually affect you in reality? Like
Mm.
if you're trauma, like in your dreams, if you dream a lot, you're dreaming about abandonment all the time. Like then in reality, would you have that issue of abandonment, or do you think that you would be dreaming of abandonment because you have a fear of it based on trauma that you had as a child and you didn't even realize it?
I think that's more likely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Well, I don't know. I have this one dream. I think everybody has this dream, but where I'm like falling down to like a very dark hole, and I always have that dream. Always. I'm not sure if that relates to trauma or what, or I don't know.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
wonder if dreams actually might try to show us, like, could be trauma that we're not aware of before the age 5, and maybe that trauma could appear in dreams, like if it's
Yeah,
actually
I think in a sense, yeah, because like I said, if it's something like that feeling, like you feel
that
what you
emotional
felt.
tie that you have with that
Yeah,
with the dream aspect of it, because that emotion, it's the same emotion
yeah,
being triggered in the dream and in reality basically,
right. Like
because
you
our emotions
don't,
going to feel the same no matter
yeah,
what. Like
like
if you
you don't
feel
have images. Yeah, you don't have images of it, like images, as a memory, but you have like the
correct,
physical, the psychological memory of it.
yeah, where you relate it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, that's pretty interesting how we went from
But yeah, let's get back on topic.
But it really was. It is cool to go in
Connect.
depth into about sleepwalking
Yeah.
and then how memories are stored in dreams, and we got to, yeah, we kind of went in a little circle, but I liked it. I liked it. But
But
I
I
think
think, yeah,
it's kind of cool how all this is kind of linked together when you think about
Yeah.
dreaming, hallucinating, memories, um, sleeping, I mean, even daydreaming. That's a whole different thing, but it's a similar concept, but kind of like backwards, right? I mean, when you daydream, you're awake, but you could. I don't know if you ever. I mean, when I was in school as a kid, I guess I daydreamed a lot. I would be sitting at my desk, and you're awake, and you're listening to the teacher and taking in the lesson being told, but I could still be in my mind like taking in that information and then like just like dreaming and thinking about something else and I don't know. Like I could have been like dreaming I was playing a video game, like getting back home to play Super Mario Brothers. Didn't want to be sitting in history class.
Yeah, I think daydreaming is more like just your imagination, like going overactive. But it has definitely been proven that children have a higher level of imagination than adults because of the way their brain is still developing connections. So they kind of have a lot more ability to create things uh, that are not there, I guess.
yeah. I like to talk to myself a lot.
Yeah,
But
like
do you
in
inside
your
in your head, or do you talk out loud to
Out
yourself?
loud. Like
Because
I like
yeah, yeah,
I create,
yeah.
like I know, like Joe, we always joke about, like, we joke around a lot, right? Even with AJ, we joke around. But like, I like to create these. I don't have split personalities, but I like to create personalities with me. I'm not sure it's because I'm lonely, but even when I had a girlfriend, I was still doing that. Just creating different personalities. Like, I
like
had like,
would you say characters are like each personality would have different characteristics, like completely different from each other? But
um,
you're aware that you're the one that's creating it. Basically, it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
that
Okay.
personality is not getting.
taking
It's
control
not.
Yeah.
over
It's not
me more.
separate. Yeah, it's not separate.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's more like creativity,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you like a creative
imagination.
outlet. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for
imagination.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that's just like movie, like actors. They create different.
yeah,
When they're in a movie, they're playing a completely
yeah.
a completely different person. They
Oh,
have to they learn a whole new personality. They learn talking
yeah,
techniques, voice, movements. It's the same thing.
just imagine the persona you need to create in order to be an actor in the Human Centipede. Just
Oh,
imagine.
and the human centipede.
Just
Oh,
imagine.
Oh man.
we're getting off track here, guys.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go
That
back.
if you have not seen that movie,
Do not Google
don't
it.
watch
Do
it.
not
Don't
Google it.
don't watch it. Oh my lord. All right. So I think next we should go into talk about schizophrenia and what was it, multiple personality disorder? I forget the actual term for it.
Yeah, yeah. It's called it's a similar concept, right? Of I think a lot of people, and it's including myself, used to confuse schizophrenia with thinking that it's multiple personalities. But
Yeah.
apparently, schizophrenia is only hallucinations and delusions. Which a delusion is basically like when you hold a belief that it's not true, and even when somebody presents you with evidence that is not true, then you still truly believe it. One example would be somebody who feels like they're being persecuted, or they're feeling paranoid, right? They're feel There's people that think they're famous, and they truly believe it, right? So that's kind of like a very severe delusion.
Okay.
And that's what happens with schizophrenia. And what Joe was talking about is more like multiple personalities, and that one's called dissociative identity disorder,
DID,
DID.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, DID. So that's when you have more than, usually two or more, right? But most people only have two because it's not as severe. And what happens is people, as the first word says, they dissociate. And this happens in the majority of times that people have this situation. It happens because they're undergoing a pretty severe trauma, like abuse or sexual abuse, or I don't know, being kidnapped and kept for long periods of time, or something quite traumatic that is continuous, not just a one time thing that's like, a car accident or something like that. I would say that's not very likely to cause multiple personality, something that happens over time. And so, um, what happens to these people is that their brain can modify itself as you experience things. Your brain can change and you can start responding in different ways. So in order to cope with the trauma that they're going through, because it's so severe and so constant, the person sort of lowers the function, the brain lowers the function of certain parts of the brain in order to survive, pretty much, just to survive that situation, so that that person doesn't kill themselves, or die from, from this the severe trauma that they're experiencing. So excuse me. So what happens is, like some of the parts of the brain that deal with holding on to memories and making these memories into long term, the parts that deals with emotions, like we say, the amygdala, that deals with your fear emotions, the brain decides that is too much. So in order to bring that down, it just lowers that function so much that the person has to create a completely new identity to deal with that.
Wow.
And that
Wow.
identity is usually somebody that's a lot more, I don't know, like a mental, has a mental strength that
Mhm.
can deal with that somehow. I don't know exactly the pathways of how the brain develops that, but I know that that's sort of the general idea of how it happens. Like it suppresses that person that could no longer deal, in order to keep that person alive, and then it creates that other person that's like, I'm not gonna take your shit, and like,
So
and so that,
basically, they
yeah,
create a personality to suppress to suppress like another personality, basically, and
yeah,
become a whole
yeah,
new person. But that other personality can still exist in their mind.
yeah,
That's very, very,
yeah. So it's
very,
like a
very
sort of,
crazy.
I guess
Wow.
each part of the brain sort of separates into its own. Like, I don't know, each part gets like two separate sides, maybe something along those lines. And
I'm definitely
so,
gonna have to read more into that because that's very interesting. Like that's I always wondered if it was like two personalities that were disassociated from each other. Like with one personality, well, because what you just explained, if they create a personality to suppress the other one, but when they suppress it, I guess the new personality does it can it have can any of the memories of any of the other personality ever bleed through? Or are they two personalities that are
um,
like
I
completely disassociated from each other?
I have heard that sometimes they can sort of hear each other. I don't know exactly if they can interact with each other necessarily, but that one may be able to hear what the other one is thinking of, basically.
Because
And
I've seen I don't know if these would be like real videos, but like you say how people with schizophrenia are portrayed in movies, they'll have,
yeah.
multiple personalities like what's the show with Jim
Split.
Carrey where he's the state trooper and he has the
um
three kids. I can't think of the name of it, but he has two
yeah,
personalities. One's the a cop and the other is like, the bad cop.
yeah.
and, and like those personalities fight with each other, so it makes me wonder like if they do interact with each other, where one's like, no, you shut up, you get back in there,
Yeah, I
I'm
think
controlling the body right now, basically,
I
it's
think it
how.
might be more like a mental thing, sort of like the person can hear the other one and sort of like push it backwards and be like, I'm coming out. But I'm not exactly too sure on how that all works. I do know that when certain situations are happening, depending on the environment that the person is in, one or the other personality may be more fit for that situation, and so that's the one that's going to be coming out. Like if they're in a place where they feel safe, then they're basically their original self is going to come out. It's going to feel safe enough to come out. But then if they're in a threatening situation, then the one that was created to deal with the trauma may be the one that's more willing to come out at that
Gotcha.
time.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. I mean, that's very interesting how the human mind how is able to create basically two different realities. I mean, would you consider that to be two different realities living? Because I mean, it's two different views because it is two different personalities, right? So is it
I don't know
that's
if I
just
would call them realities
no.
because the outside environment is the same.
But
It's
everybody
just
outside would interact differently depending like which character or which personality is actually
personality.
being displayed, because if it's like a if one of the personalities is very like mean and angry, people are gonna be scared of that personality. They'll have that
True.
view. And then if the other personality is like loving and caring, when they see that personality, they'll act differently towards that person. So there really are, I mean, I guess publicly in the reality, it would look like it could be that people that are actually interacting with them could see it as two different people. I don't know. It's pretty crazy to think about. And hey, Ronald, thanks. That is the name of the movie. Me, myself, and Irene. And we are a little behind here. I did leave this up here.
Oh, about the
Exceptionally average.
characters,
Yeah, he wanted to
Damien.
know, Damien, if do you write down those characters that you were talking about earlier?
I just kind of create them on the spot. I know when I went fishing,
Mm.
I went fishing. I was like talking to myself. I was acting like there's two personas, me, and then some old grumpy guy just telling me what to do. And I was like, "Hey, boy, you sure you got your tackle box? You got all your hooks, all your scissors?" I'm like, "Bro, chillax. Let me go to my car. Let me check." Then I come out. He's like, "I don't think you got those pliers that you need." And I was like, "I do have them.
Mm.
I checked and I didn't." So he was right. So
So the character actually helps you remember, like if you forgot any of your gear, basically when you're out fishing by yourself.
that's just that one
Yeah.
case. Sometimes I have like multiple personalities like going at
Yeah.
it, but it's nothing bad. It's just I guess I'm just a
Did you
lonely
ever
guy.
did you ever want to do acting or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was in middle school, I'm not sure if y'all are from the Houston area, but I went to Marshall Middle School and I was in theaters. I love the camera. I loved everything. I love the not that I love the attention, but as growing up, I was always worried to talk around people. Y'all know me. We get along so well, so I was always worried to show that true side of me, and a lot of people liked it, but the people that didn't get to see that side never liked me, and that worries me. So, but to get back on topic, the theater teacher, she told me, I don't know why I said that story, but the theater teacher told me when I was after a scene, like it was my first day. She was like, "Would you want to go to There's a special school for like arts and stuff, like
Yeah.
theater, acting,
Yeah.
orchestra." She
Yeah.
told me she would recommend me. She said, "I
Oh.
really see something in you."
Yeah. The High School for Performing Visual Arts. I think it
Yeah,
was HSPVA. Yeah. I have a
yeah.
friend that went there.
So she recommended me, but I was always very mature for my age. So I told myself, that's not a reality. I need to go to college, study, which I did.
Mm.
I don't regret it, but like
You could have been some big Hollywood hotshot or something, man.
maybe, but
Have you? Well, it's interesting that Ronald asked. Well, no, I'm sorry. It was exceptionally average. It asked if you wrote down your characters. I do have a question that goes kind of with that. So, did you ever write like any type of literature, like come up with storylines and stuff? And
uh, there's this one story that I have that I'm very proud of in elementary. I only wrote one story, but it was about zombies, and it was about me and other people, and that was the only story I wrote. But that
so
was a kid thing.
the zombies were coming after you, or what was going on with that?
No, so keep in mind I was a kid, so I was basically the hero in the story, right? But
Nice.
I made sure to add I presented this story to my it was a show and tell, and I presented a book. I couldn't bring an animal, I couldn't bring like something very cool like all the other kids. So I wrote a
Oh.
story, and I wrote about zombies, and I kid you not, I made everybody laugh.
Nah, that's really cool. That's
I made
cool.
everybody laugh. The teachers loved it, and you know how I am. So with my multiple personalities, when I'm reading it, I wrote it more like a movie scene, not a movie, not a story. It was a movie scene, so I just kept on acting it, and I used the voice, and I put some curse words in there. Teachers always would laugh, like, did this kid just add a curse word into his story, his
Mhm.
movie? But yeah,
Gonna get the
Nice,
attention.
nice, nice, nice. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think you could have done well. Like Joe and I'll talk about this on one of the shows where it's so important to be able to be yourself, and because if you're not yourself, then you're not gonna be happy with where you're at, or who you are. But unfortunately, that doesn't always line up with what people think we should be, right? So that's the hard thing to balance and to find that spot.
To be able to find
But
people that you feel comfortable being
but
yourself around because you don't want to be worried about them judging you for something. I don't know, for being yourself, because sometimes being yourself is like different from what other people have like ever experienced, and like how are they going to react to it, and it
yeah,
makes you feel nervous about it.
yeah, and I think it always leads back to when we're kids, and like all these experiences that we have growing up, how they shape, like your brain doesn't really separate your childhood from your adulthood. You just like take all of our childhood uh, experiences, and how we responded into how we respond the same way, like I explained earlier, not just before age 5 but after age 5, the
yeah,
ones that we do remember, right? Like we take those and we remember how we responded at that point, that we're going to respond the same way. So I think when kids are bullied, or made to feel like they're dumb, or like they're doing something wrong, or that whatever they, I don't know, project they made is silly. Like it makes you feel the same way when you grow up and you try to do things, and you start thinking, well, people are gonna think I'm dumb. People are gonna think I'm silly. I shouldn't do that. And we ultimately try to push down who we really are, to keep the relationships that we have, to keep everybody happy that we want to have a relationship with, in order to not push them away. I
yeah,
think it's And I think that's why, especially myself, and I think now Joe feels the same way. We're always trying to help people understand other perspectives better, because the more you're exposed to those type of things, the more you realize everybody's human. Like uh, when we talk to
yeah,
Anthony, right? Like drug addicts, like drug addiction, a lot of people see it as a choice, or as something that's somebody's doing that's a bad thing. And
yeah,
it really is just trauma. It's just somebody dealing the only way they know how with trauma. And if we focus more on dealing with childhood trauma, rather than dealing with behaviors that people have, then we will have a lot happier people and a lot more accepting people.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like so true. It's like it would be very, very helpful, and like people being more open about, yeah, more accepting. I would say more accepting.
Yeah,
And I think I mean, as somebody that comes from a religious background, and I still believe, and we'll go into deeper why and well some reasons, but like it does make me sad that seeing like these religions, including mine, that we basically we push people down. That's actually not it's the main reason why I stopped going to church. I still believe in a higher power, but that's the main reason I don't go to church because
You
and
have
again,
more of a self connection with what you think is afterlife then? Like do you think you're
yeah,
more separated from like the church belief? Like you still have a similar belief, like there is, that you're what you would think of your soul like
yeah,
separates from your body and moves to another existence basically, right? Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I used to really like to think that, not in a religious way though, because I never went to church. I never read the Bible, but I always had before I before what I believe now. I assumed that the soul and the body could separate after you died, and it
yeah,
is a cool concept that if your whole existence in your mind, like all those thoughts, all those memories could carry on, and you get to continue another life basically, but as the same person, like you leveled up basically. I don't
Yeah,
know. That's the way I kind of always seen it, where it's you're gonna get to like be in another life, not heaven, not
yeah,
serving, not following like
something.
a god, for not having to serve a god, but it would be just like a new existence basically with your a new body maybe, or maybe not even a body, maybe more of a dream-like reality, um
Yeah,
like universal. But I don't know, now I kind of see, like, I don't think that happens, man. I don't know,
yeah,
but I could still, like I've always told AJ, in my mind I have maybe, like, I think of the different scenarios, and like the ones that I think are kind of cool, like I would go ahead and probably like that
write
to
it
be
down.
one of the like that to be one of the options of what happens after we die. Yeah, write it
That'd
down.
be
But
awesome.
have that be one of the options that could happen. I can't prove
Yeah,
any, of them. I don't have proof
yeah,
there's a God. I can't prove that my there's a dimension 7 that my soul like transfers to. I can't prove that there's nothing when we die. I mean, it's just like we're all kind of in the same boat, where like we just kind of think whatever we is the best decision, or the best thing that could
yeah,
happen to ourselves after, in the next life, or after we cease to exist here.
yeah.
It is cool to
And
be able to kind of like think about, like, other that there could be more than just turning to nothing. But I mean, I added that one into into my bucket of things that could happen after death, and I think that one, I mean, it's
Well, but
plausible.
that's why scientists come up with hypotheses, right? To then be able to test them and be like,
yeah,
hey, okay, this one's more likely than this one, or this one has, a lot of gaps in it, or this one has more evidence for it. So you kind of got to check them all out. And
yeah,
but to what you say, Damien, earlier, that's something that I always try to point out before I start talking to somebody about religion, and it's that I don't believe that religion makes somebody a bad person, right?
mhm,
Like, if somebody has a belief that they don't know why they believe in that, or that they have no tangible evidence for it, but they still believe it. It's just a belief, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily make you a horrible person. If you're doing terrible things in the name of that religion, then we could say, okay, your belief is leading you to make bad decisions.
yeah,
That's all I can say. But I can't say that you are a horrible person just because of holding a belief.
yeah. And
So
I
that's what
want
I always separate people. Like, when you know that I respect you a lot, and whatever you believe in, like, I don't think you're a bad person because of that.
and I guess the main reason why I chose this topic is it's basically is because I want y'all to understand why I believe. I know you have said it before, race of human. You see me like there's a battle in my head, and there's definitely a battle in my head. But there's also things that I can't explain also, and there's like I guess I wanna go deeper into the topic.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you what do you think about all of the like the church character, the Bible characters and their visions? Do you think that was real? And let's take the religion out of it. Do you think it's possible to have a vision and it happens? And the reason why I'm asking these questions because and everything that I say today is completely true. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not lying.
Yeah.
But I have had dreams where I have met people that I meet in the future. Like I dreamt about a friend that I met in college, and I actually met him in college. Then I dreamt about my boss and my coworker. And you're probably asking, how do you remember that? Well, because I really try hard to think because those type of dreams, I'm like, who the heck are these people? And I'm constantly thinking about it. And I can't remember the exact facial details, but I can remember the situation, the scenario, and roughly how they look, roughly. And it has happened before where those dreams come true.
Well, wouldn't
Yeah.
that be? Oh, go ahead.
No, what were you gonna ask? You
No,
can
I
go
was just
first.
gonna say, wouldn't that be kind of like experiencing what they call deja vu though, where you
I was gonna say that
What?
exact same
yeah
thing. Yeah,
What?
yeah,
That's actually a thing that people think, but like
yeah no
I
yeah
actually dream it. Like I don't like relating what I have to like deja vu because I actually had dreamt it,
okay.
and I'm
No,
not saying
I'm not trying to say like say the dreams like saying it could be deja vu. I'm not trying to like downplay like what you're saying you experienced.
yeah,
I was just pointing out to me that's what it made me think of when you said that. Like
yeah,
I've been in a place before, like at a certain, and I feel like I'll have that feeling that I have like either been here before
yeah,
or this moment happening. Like I've experienced like this whole thing that's happened in my head, but is that I mean, is that like do you see like when you experience that, I'm trying to get my words right. When you experience that, do you feel that that's a higher power like God
yes,
or
yes.
speaking to you? Okay.
I don't necessarily correlate it with God. I
With a
correlate it
higher
with like
power.
something
Okay.
like how is it possible to dream the
so
future?
uh what let me ask you, for example, the dream about your boss, like how
Yeah.
far before you met them did you dream that? Do you remember? Like, would you say it was a
Sometimes
few days, or was it weeks? Was it months, years?
sometimes there's been cases where it's like a day. There's been cases where it's months. And like I said, I it sounds impossible to me for me to remember that stuff, but I actually I like to keep tabs like I because I even so the thing that I used to have with my ex girlfriend back in college. Every time I had a very vivid dream, I would tell her my dream, and I always told her because I was like, "Hey, this might happen." And there was a time where it did happen, and she was like, "Oh yeah," you know. And it's like I don't know, I kind of correlate that with that. I can't. I don't know. I can't
Well, no,
explain it.
it's interesting. No, I like you talking about that. You might not have watched our
Yeah,
live the other day, but we talked about it was about is our dreams from God, basically. And there's so many different
That's
interpretations of that. Like some
yeah,
people believe that yes, all dreams are from God. Some believe that it's only some, and you have to read them wisely about things that have happened in your life or thoughts you've had this to determine whether that dream is from God trying to tell you something. But then there's a lot of people that also say that God does give you dreams, but he would never give you something that predicted something that was going to happen in the future. Like he wouldn't show you a dream that actually showed you your coworker, or that you would meet
exactly
go into the school or you would
because
meet this person. So I
that's
mean,
there. Yeah.
it's
Go
it's
ahead.
kind of
Sorry.
cool. I like your perspective of that too because it kind of went against like some of the stuff we watched the other day.
Mhm.
yeah. So there's one thing that I was um that I learned about recently. When I was researching the topic of hallucinations and all of that, and it's a concept called pareidolia, and I've never heard of it before. Okay, but it's basically our brains are used to recognizing patterns. Like they're always looking for patterns. And without this concept called pareidolia, then one example of what we will have to do is if somebody writes the letter A for you, every single time they write that letter for you, you will have to relearn it and re-realize that it's the letter A. But your brain has learned to recognize that pattern, and you can look at the letter A on any type of writing and recognize right away that that's the letter A because your brain has that pattern saved, right? So the same happens with people's faces. If I met you, and if I turned away and then I look back at you, without that, I would have to like re-recognize you, like, hey, who are you, right? So this helps us recognize, oh, this person looks kind of like that. That's why sometimes two people may look very very similar to you, but not to somebody else. You tell somebody else, hey, look, they look the same, and they're like, no, they don't. It's
Mhm.
because your brain has created that pattern. So I think that it's very possible. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that that's exactly what is happening, But the brain uses this method not just for visual, it also uses it for auditory things, for things that you smell, for things that you taste, any type of your senses, right? To in order to recognize everything, colors, shapes,
Mhm.
people's body shapes. Like somebody might look similar to the other person, like again to you, but not to somebody else. And it's possible that when you dreamed of this and you see something that matches
Similar.
that pattern, that is familiar to what that dream was, then your mind automatically fills in the gaps. And it's like, oh, it must be that. Or,
Mm.
oh, okay, I see red shirt and I see a red shirt now. So then it fills up with everything else that you saw in the dream because it's familiar, because you just saw it. And then
Yeah.
it's like, all right, well, that's the memory. That's a memory, right? But it's not
Yeah.
necessarily a memory. It's just a familiarity that you're
Pattern.
seeing, like a
But
pattern that
but
you're seeing.
in the dream though, when you dream this, Damien, do you are you is it actually a like do you visualize like a person, like a being representing the higher power, like actually talking to you and showing you like this person? Or are you actually like you're saying you experience where like you were like in an office and you're introduced to this person as your boss?
Yeah,
Was it
it's
more in
like,
that aspect, like you were actually there?
so I live the future. Like
Okay,
I'm in
I
the
got you.
exact position at the desk. I have a coworker to the side, and then I have another coworker, and I remember their bodies. I remember roughly how they look, but I can't remember the face. And like you said, yeah,
Right.
the brain fills the gaps.
Yeah.
But like those type of moments, I'm like, I'm in college. I have never had experience like that. Did I just did I
Do you have a lot of those like I mean that's happened like how many times would you say that's happened like in your life where you dreamt something and then that you interacted with that same scenario like in life?
I can count it with my hands. So no more than
Number
10.
10. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And I mean, hallucinations are pretty similar to that, because what happens with hallucinations is that, like I said earlier, when we have so much information coming from every angle, from hearing, from vision, from smell, taste, touch, all kinds of movements around us, right? It's so much information that the brain is just filtering out other stuff, and then eventually fills in these gaps. And what happens with a hallucination is that the brain takes that information, and whatever it filtered out, it suddenly fills it in with some random uh,
Yeah.
thing. And so but you actually see that, you kind of experience that, because the brain is sending those neurotransmitters to tell you, hey, that's right there, but it's not. Like, you can look out and see somebody wearing a red shirt, and then you turn around and the shirt was actually yellow. It's because your brain hallucinated for a moment. it,
Mhm.
it filled in the gap. It just quickly went, that's red. But then you look again and you're like, no, it wasn't. Like, so you now, when you look at the second time, you stopped hallucinating. Like, your brain is actually paying attention to it
But
rather than
that
just
would be a
filling in.
that's a natural hallucination though you're talking
Yeah.
about from if someone that would have schizophrenia, or
No,
are you
that's
speaking of
like, no, like normal, completely healthy people
okay, okay.
hallucinate.
Having
Yeah,
like
yeah,
like
small hallucinations.
yeah,
Yeah,
like glitches in reality where
yeah,
your mind tricks you.
yeah. It's kind of like the brain is just sort of making a wrong assumption about
Yeah.
something.
So yeah,
So that's what my
basically
brain is doing.
Yeah, and then
yeah.
Mm.
you correct it by actually paying attention to it. And I mean, it can happen to people. Like, I've shared this before. For me, when I had this experience of hearing Joe's dad's voice when after he passed away, right? When we walk into his house. But I'm deaf and I didn't have my cochlear implant at the time. So when I thought about it years later, I was like, well, wait a minute. What are the chances that I actually heard it? Like, when the more I think about it and the more I learn about the way the brain handles stress and grief and things that cause your brain to release all these different neurotransmitters, the chances are I hallucinated his voice, or it was sort of like a replay
Yeah,
of
I think it was
my
like a replay.
memory. Yeah, my
Picture.
Like
memory
something
replayed it.
something
Yeah,
walking into the house like in that certain spot of the house
triggered.
like
Yeah,
triggered that, and it made your mind like
yeah,
play that sense that
That
I guess.
phrase that he says.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
like yeah,
What
that sound. Yeah.
was it something you heard before from him, or were these
Oh
new?
yeah, it was like an exact phrase that he would often
Oh,
say.
okay.
So it was like to me, like now that I can think about it objectively and knowing how the brain works, it's like okay, it was just a memory that sort of the brain misfired and replayed that memory, and I just heard it. Like I thought that I heard it, but it was just in my head.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
nobody else heard it.
Because like she's I mean, yeah, I've never thought about it either except when we were talking about it the other day where she explained to me like, what she thought, like there was no way she could have heard it from naturally outside of her mind or her head because she was legally deaf, that was
Yeah.
before her cochlear implant. So the sound would have had to come from internally, inside her
Crazy.
inside
But if she did hear, how did she hear your dad before?
with her hearing aid
Um,
on.
Oh, with the hearing?
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was usually if I was up close with him, like
Yeah.
then I could hear. It was mostly like being able to hear the voice and read the person's lips, how I knew what they were saying. So for me to be able to hear it that clearly, it would be very unlikely
Yeah.
unless it was coming from like my own memory.
Which is, I mean, everybody has a different perspective on that too, on like
But
actually if they're
there's there is actually studies that have shown, well, I mean, experiences of people who are blind, and they have like, I guess what you would call visions. Like they have like completely visual hallucinations, and they can describe what they're seeing, and it is not what's in front of them. So they're having the visions inside their mind, not they're not actually seeing. Like say I'm looking at my computer, right? And if I was completely blind, then I was imagining that I am outside in at the beach. So it would be two completely different things, but they're
but
the,
how would they know, how
through
would they
their
even know
brain.
it would be an image of
Well,
the beach that they've created themselves though, right? Because if, are these people that were
uh,
blind for their whole life, or were they only
no, this was actually people who had lost their vision.
okay,
Yeah,
then that makes more sense. But so they
yeah,
were able to replay memories
yeah,
that they had taken in while they could still
yeah,
see. Okay, that I could see that. That's interesting. I've always wondered, um, people that have never seen, ever, completely legally blind from birth, like I've always wondered like what their reality is like inside their mind. Like what do they see? Like they've had to create their own images for different objects that they touch, in their mind. Well, I would at least think so. Because like when I touch something, if I know it's a keyboard, like in my mind I can picture a keyboard, but maybe not everybody can do the same thing. Like my mind's very visual.
I
yeah.
guess.
I think, and that's happened to me with my changes in vision and hearing. Like I've told you before, I used to have a very vivid sort of visual imagination. Like I could imagine things in bright colors and images, but now I have a hard time doing that because my vision has been so bad for so many years, and because my hearing got better now, mostly my inner dialogue is just a voice, not images. So I think that probably changes for people who are blind or completely deaf or both. It's probably uh, more more related to how their other senses that work better are heightened.
Yeah, well, they might think in colors. Well, I guess I
Yeah,
couldn't say colors, but I would
Yeah.
assume they can. I would assume they can see colors, that their mind can create that internally, even without actually knowing what it is. It might not be the same colors that we know as yellow or we know as red, but they have to have some type of like
Um,
image that they would relate to something.
I'm
I would like to
thinking.
ask a blind person that's been legally blind.
Yeah. We need to get a blind person on the stream
So,
because.
I mean, it would be very interesting.
Yeah.
Exceptionally average, he just said some blind people can dream in images.
Wow.
But
that's
I'm
awesome.
curious,
That
exceptionally
is.
average. So would these be people that have been blind, from birth, or people that became blind? I would assume, like I agree. It could, in my mind, I think it could go both ways. But the images of a person that that has never been able to see anything outside of their mind. I think that it's images that they create themselves. So they have either colors or shapes or things that they relate to like certain things.
Yeah.
Because a
But
blind person can feel the face, like they use that to be able to identify people. If I remember when we met some of the people in Austin when you were with the blind and deaf group, and there was,
oh
I think
yeah,
there was a lady that she would grab your hands first, she would feel your face, and then she would read the sign by you would sign, and she would hold her hand over yours,
yeah.
and she would be able to interpret to what you were saying.
What
That's how
shape
you
you
would
are?
communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she had to create images of that, of that sign in her mind.
True. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's another message. She says that some were blind from birth.
That's amazing and exceptionally average. That's I would really like to speak with somebody like that, just because it's just to get more knowledge of it. It's a very interesting topic. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, I think it's Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he always says that our senses are super unreliable, and I think that's pretty true, especially our vision. Yeah, I know that a lot of people who are trying to prove religion say that the human eye is too complex to be able to be, have developed naturally. But if you think about it, humans actually don't have the most complex eyes. I think it's some type of shrimp, um, the mantis shrimp. Okay, so they have the most complex eyes because humans can only detect three colors, right? It's like our cones, the cones in our eyes can only detect red, green, and blue. And so with the combination of those three, we can see like thousands of colors. But the mantis shrimp have 16 cones, so they can detect 16 colors. That's like a massive amount, and they can actually
Yeah.
see ultraviolet and infrared light without any type of device. Obviously, like us humans need devices to be able to see ultraviolet and infrared lights. So like their eyes are pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Like
that's actually really really cool. I
so,
mean, it makes you wonder why, but it's I would assume that their eyes became that advanced, um, because most of those are probably like what parts of the water do those shrimp live in? Is that like deep water, or is that
uh, I don't know about that specific type of shrimp, but
yeah?
I will assume it's the ocean.
That's
Oh,
interesting though. I wonder if it's something that if it eventually, like
They
does
evolved.
it need an eye, that can see that many colors? Like what is the reasoning behind that? I mean, it's pretty cool though.
Yeah, I think it might probably have to do with like how much light access they have down there, so they might
Yeah,
need more
that's why I
more
was thinking
cones
if it
in
was how
order
deep
to
it was.
see. Yeah, I mean, everything, every advancement that animals or humans have is just an adaptation for whatever environment they're in. So I guess we don't need to see infrared lights.
hmm.
But I was thinking about this issue with the light. One day we were at the movies, and so I have this little microphone that connects to my implant so that I can hear the movie better, right? And I had it on my lap, and when I was looking at the screen, I kept seeing from underneath a flashing of light, and every time I would look down, I would stop seeing it, and I was like, oh, what the heck? I would look
Wow.
back up, and it would start flashing again. I was like, look down, and I would not see the flashing light. And then I realized that it was the microphone, and it was flashing the entire time, whether I look up or down. It was, I guess, just my vision had like a blind spot in that area
Where it couldn't see it when
where
you
it
look
couldn't
down.
see it.
That's
But then
crazy.
I learned that where a retina connects to the back of the eye through a nerve, and that nerve makes a sort of a hole through the back of the eye in order to pass right into the brain. And so in that spot, we have a blind spot. Everybody has it. I don't know exactly how you. There's like a trick. Maybe Joe can find a video on what the trick is. The blind spot, of the eye.
Oh, to be able to
Um,
actually to be able to actually
yeah, there's a way to
like make
actually be able to
see the blind,
tell.
not be able to see in a
Yeah,
certain
like
There's
you're.
no
area.
way.
Yeah, you're
There's no
supposed.
way.
All right,
There is. Yeah, you're
let me
supposed
look
to
it up.
place an item in a specific spot, and then you look a certain way, and then it's like the blind spot.
I have 360
So
vision.
You
10
have 360.
10
You're
10.
360.
you're like a fly.
Oh,
Thank
I'm more
you.
than a fly.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Or-
All right, I got a video.
okay.
All right.
All right, let's watch this real quick.
Oh, that's the same video, cuz.
No.
Oh, thought you were gonna put a planned pregnancy test or something like that.
All right, hold on. You're right. It is the same video. My
I
fault.
told
My
you.
fault. My fault,
I
guys. My
did
fault.
You gotta
after the
remove that one
video.
first.
After the video, I do want to talk about dreams again. I didn't finish my
Oh yeah, yeah.
process.
We can go back to that.
I'm having technical difficulties.
Yeah, you
I
have to
guess
remove.
Oh
so.
no, I removed it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
There's three people in the there's
There we
three
go.
people watching. Make sure to like the stream so far. I'm definitely a guest to this YouTube channel, but hey, Cognitive Echo, Ways of Human, they're good stuff. You know, they know their stuff. They're pretty good people. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. Show them some love, please.
All right, here we go.
I thought this would be worthwhile, just producing a little video to try and help people find their own blind spot. Because if you can't find your own blind spot, then you won't be able to explain to a patient what it is that you're asking of them. So what is the blind spot? I think that's worthwhile discussing initially, because I think that people have seen so far with the other how-to examination videos, I'm relatively garrulous. So the blind spot that we'll be looking for today is a good example of a scotoma. That is any area where there is an obscuration of the visual field. In terms of what we're discussing here, we're trying to find the physiological blind spot, or sometimes, if you have that Latin bent, referred to as the punctum secum. This is essentially where the optic nerve, cranial nerve 2, is going into the retina. So one way of thinking about it is it's a wiring point for the eye. And as a result of this wiring, you can't actually see over that spot. Now, what you have to remember is, as humans, people, creatures, however you want to look at it, we don't actually see. We are brains living in a black box, isolated in all ways from the outside world. We sense and interact with the outside world via electrical stimuli coming in through our...
It's a pretty long video, but it does kind of give a little bit more in-depth detail about what AJ was talking about. But
Yeah.
But I don't have a blind spot, right?
it's not the video I thought. I know y'all were asking for a video that showed where you could do a test like personally. We'll have to look that
Yeah.
up another time.
That's okay.
And
Yeah.
show it.
Alright.
Let's keep
Um,
talking about the dreams.
Yeah, sorry
So
guys.
you wanted
Sorry.
to get back on that?
Sorry.
Real quick. So exceptionally average was commenting about when you were talking about the microphone reading
light.
the flashing
Yeah.
light, which is true. So I guess changing that angle of your view actually, that it was in your blind spot though when you were looking at that angle possibly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Suppose.
getting. Yeah. So next I was thinking we would move on and talk about
I think Damien said he had something extra
okay.
to add about the
Well,
dreams.
we can do
Don't
that
forget
first
about
before we
him.
move on. Before we move on, we can do that then, because after that, I think we're going to start talking about near-death experiences and
Ooh.
DMT.
Near
Yeah.
death. Okay. Wow.
So yeah, go ahead and what did you want to talk about, Damien?
I just wanted to talk about I had some nightmares, you can say, right? Maybe I was going through stress at the time. Maybe I had trauma. I don't know. But I had a dream. Like I say, I'm not exaggerating any of these details. This is actually a reality to me. I had an encounter, I would say. I would best describe it as an encounter for me personally. I had multiple nights where I had scary visions or hallucinations or nightmares or encounters. Um, I always connected it to sleep deprivation, and there's like when you don't get enough rest, there's like a evil figure that pops up. I don't know the term. I'm pretty sure I know the term for it. Oh yeah, I don't know.
Maybe AJ does. I mean, I would consider those to be like night terrors, right? I mean, it's
Uh,
more
Yeah.
of a
there's the name for it though.
um,
There's like
let me see.
Mm,
you
I
know.
don't know.
Okay, so I always tied it back to that science topic. So I was like, there's no way, right? But sometimes these dreams got real bad, or nightmares, or like it, like I said, um, there was one time where they first started like I woke up, I, I'm awake, right? I'm not sure if I'm awake or not. I really don't know.
It
But
sounds like you're about to discuss. You're gonna say like sleep paralysis, right? Where
some,
you're
yeah,
you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
where you can't move. You realize you're dreaming, but you can't wake yourself up.
Yep.
yes.
Yeah.
And so I always try to tie it to that, and then well, like I would always feel the evil presence, right? Which fits the criteria of the sleep, whatever. Um, but then they got worse. They got worse. Sometimes there was one time where I heard like an actual whisper in my ear. Like it sounded evil. Maybe I got it from like a scary movie, and I just confused my mind. And so I thought. But then there was one time, and like I said, this is a reality to me. I don't know. I don't know. And then one time it got bad. I felt like I elevated from the bed, but when I say it, it sounds funny, but like I really feel like that was a reality. Maybe my brain was confused. I
But
still told myself
do you think maybe you dreamt that? Like you were like a like part,
it's
half awake but still like in a dream state where you were aware that you were in a room
my
and
room, my room.
yeah, like you were awake enough to be aware that you were in your room and asleep, and it made you be able to see yourself like actually like asleep in your bed. I don't know, I've had similar experiences like that, but not to where I thought that I floated, but
It like I said, it's I'm living the moment. Like it's not. I'm not looking at myself. It's like I'm living the moment. I feel like I got off the bed. Maybe I'm crazy, right? And then one time it got even worse. It was like I was sleeping, and y'all both know me. I like to bite my nails, so I don't have nails. I have like no animals, like crazy animals. And then one time it got to the point where like it got to the point where it got real close to me, and it scratched me like in the back. I was always scared to open my eyes, but I knew, and then it scratched my chest, and I was like, damn, that freaking hurt. And then the next morning, I wake up, I'm like, I forget about everything, right? And then I look at my chest when I shower, and I'm like, that's a scratch.
how
So
old were you during this? I'm just curious, like what was your
um,
age?
preteens maybe, or like 12, 13, I would say
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
And so I don't, those are some things I can't explain. Like that's why I believe, like not necessarily that's the exact reason why I believe. It's a bunch of things,
Yeah.
but those are things that have stayed. That I think about all the time. Like oh shoot, like there's no situation I was gonna get
But
scratched.
you don't think you could have scratched yourself though? Like
I don't have
what
nails.
yeah.
Y'all know that. I got booty fingers, everybody. Booty
It's
fingers. So
he's still the same booty
yeah.
fingers. Okay.
So
Well, I
it's
mean it just makes you try to wonder like what else could have caused that. Okay, so if there really was something supernatural that like that appeared, like do you think it was something physical or do you think it was something supernatural that would have caused that?
things like that. It makes me think like there's definitely bad energy out there. I think that yeah, I think there's bad and good energy. And the same how we get. I I feel from like humans. I feel like I feel that sometimes just where I'm at or.
Well, for me, when people have experiences like that, I would what I will ask someone to do is to really think through every step of what your your specific experience or your specific claim entails, right? Because there are so I don't know exactly where to start because there's just so much on what you say that my brain is trying to process and be like, oh, like could be this and this and this and this, and I know that you're not seeing it that way, but I will ask you to say, hey, okay, if you believe that the dreams were not memories or things that you had seen in a movie, fears that you had or connected to trauma, like why do you think that was? Are you absolutely sure that it couldn't have been from those? That would be the main question that I will have, because as I said earlier, sometimes our brain is um, getting so much input that it doesn't completely um, register exactly everything that is going on at once. Like it puts it away for later, for when you're sleeping. And so
Yeah.
maybe it was something that you saw but that you didn't pay attention to at that moment, but that was still there, right? I don't know, like a
But what it
commercial and a
but
movie.
I understand that part that you're saying as a counter against it. But how does for him, Damon, I have the question. So the thing that made you believe the most, was it the dream and how real the dream felt, or and the evilness you felt from that dream, or was it the physical scratch on your back that you were not able to come up with any logical
Yeah.
explanation of how it got on your back?
I think you said
Person,
on your chest, right? You
Oh, it
said
was your chest. It was your chest, you said, or your back?
chest,
yeah.
Okay,
chest.
sorry. Yeah, so on your chest, like, was it more that the physical part of having a scratch on you that you couldn't explain, or was it more the dream, like the reality of how real that felt?
It's personally, it wasn't even a scratch. The scratch was just like a freaking bonus. But like, it's the feeling I felt. I felt like you know the type of person. Y'all know the type of person I am. I'm very genuine. I hang around people that I love. I don't socialize with any bad energy. And that feeling of feeling like I felt hatred. I felt fear. There's like a bunch of like negative energy. I'm like, and I'm not that type of person. I'm always laughing. I know I get sad, of course, but like I like to be happy too, And I mean, I do that from working hard. So I'm trying to achieve my goals. But the thing is, like, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
get it, but it's a horrible feeling. It's like, it's
But did that kind of scare you though? Like feeling that evilness, like did that scare you to make you think if something exists that makes me feel that horrible or that scared, that you wouldn't want to have to like be around that feeling or feel that feeling ever again, and the only way to not feel that again would be believing that there is a heaven or a place, where where you don't, where evilness like that doesn't exist.
um
So
that's a good question, but I never thought about it like that. It was always just bad energy. I never really correlated. Oh, like a lot of people, you hear a lot of like religious people blaming, oh, this stuff happened because of the devil. So I'm not that type of person.
yeah, you're just like, you just
I
don't want
believe
to be
I
around that
believe
type of energy.
I believe in reality. I'm like, okay, but that's something I'm like, okay, I mean, we feel it with people,
But you seem
so
like you really feel that your dreams, like based on your experiences, that your dreams actually you mix them with your reality. Because
yes,
yeah,
exactly, because like I even like I said, and one of the dreams I didn't say, but it was like I think I got like freaking something happened. I don't remember. I know something bad happened, but it stopped, and then I'm like, I screamed my aunt's name. I'm like, and I screamed her name loud on the top of my lungs. I got in my bed and I screamed her name, and I'm like, no freaking answer. I'm like, bruh, when I need somebody, nobody's there. And then I wake up in the morning, like, did you hear me scream your name? She's like, no. What do you mean? I'm like, I was screaming from the top of my lungs. So I know it's not reality. but
Well,
I
that's
definitely think it's
that's a
something.
so you were screaming because of the horrible dream you were having then, basically, right?
No, like because of what happened. Like
Yeah,
something
yeah.
happened to me. I got up out of the bed and I screamed. That could,
Okay.
but that could be a nightmare, you know. But I'm
Yeah, yeah.
like you
Well,
said,
no,
I'm confusing them. Like
yeah, yeah.
there's
Well, it
something
makes me
there.
think of night terrors. Like I used to have night terrors. Like when I would probably say when I was maybe 7 through maybe I don't know, maybe I was like 6, maybe 6 to like 8. Like I would have horrible like night terror dreams where like I would like they would feel so real. Like I would be paralyzed, and there was like there was this one dream where like AJ knows I'm scared of closets, and she probably used to think I was
She's
she
scared of closets.
of open closets
Like it
at
being
Why?
nighttime.
open.
I could never sleep with a closet door cracked or opened. It was just like I, when I was younger, I used to have this night terror dream where basically um, there was this monster that lived in the closet, and in the dream I would be trying like I would go into my room and I would get go speed by my closet real quick because I didn't want to get near the closet. But when I would have to get something out of the closet and I would open it, I would have to try to grab whatever I wanted to get really quick because this monster lived in the attic and there was a access to the attic from the closet, and this monster would come down real quick and try to grab me, and like in the dream like it would have a hold of me and I would be trying to shut the door, and I mean it was just like the worst like evil feeling that I could ever experience. But I know like that sense of evilness in my mind that I have, it was from watching like scary horror movies. Like I
Yeah.
know that I saw like my older brother would let us watch like these like like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Jason and Freddy and at that age, and but they would give me like horrible like nightmares from that. I would wake up screaming for my mom, to come into the room, and sometimes they would, and I would be so scared to get out of my bed and walk down the hallway. Do you remember that as a kid, like being scared and trying to have to get run to your parents' room, and it's like you have to build up the courage to come out from hiding under the blanket to like run down the hallway because you think that like some evil things like in the room with you and it's gonna kill you. I
Nah,
don't know. I used to have dreams
eventually,
like that, and they were
yeah.
scary as hell, man. I mean, like really scary.
I think what confuses me is also, and you make a good point, but like eventually, now that I got older, I still get them, but now I just sleep through it. Like I wake up, or I think I wake up. I'm like I feel all of the energy, and I'm like I don't care about this anymore. I'm just gonna go to sleep.
So I I think that it will be really important for you to remember that the how powerful the brain is. Like when we talk
Yeah,
about the hallucinations, the brain can create complete different realities, and there's a part of the brain that has to do with self perception and your own personal awareness, and that's like where you can separate who you are from who other people are, right? But sometimes that the levels that manage that can go up and down. They can fluctuate for whatever reason, because you're stressed, because you didn't sleep well the night before. You may think that you slept the whole night, but maybe you tossed and turned, and you didn't uh, get a full restful sleep.
yeah,
So you didn't get to go through the whole process of memory consolidation that it's supposed to do. So you're gonna be taking those to the next night, and then so the next night is gonna be double the work for your brain, and that can cause that type of things where you actually your brain is so overwhelmed with information that it wasn't able to process,
yeah,
that it is now overreaching and just grabbing at everything and trying to make sense of the world, but it's not making sense because it's just too much for it.
yeah,
So it can be when you're grieving, like I said, when you don't sleep well, when you take certain type of medications, when you're dehydrated, when you have a fever. There are so many different factors that can affect the way the many different parts of the brain connect with each other. And if
yeah.
they're not doing it correctly, then it's gonna fuck up your mind. And it's
So what happened to my mind where this all started, and then I felt whatever that evilness was. It cut my chest or scratched me, and what caused that? Because
Uh, to be honest with you, for me, I have woken up with scratches. Right now, I have a bruise that
freaking
and
Joe.
it hurts. It's like this big. It's like on my knee, and it
Yeah.
hurts like right above my knee, and it hurts pretty bad. And I have no recollection of where it came from. Right? Like I know for sure I didn't do it while I was awake. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe he knew me when we were sleeping, but like you know, there's so many explanations. There could be like I don't know, maybe you were wearing a watch, or I don't know. You said you were pretty young, like a kid, right?
12, 13, roughly.
So the further back this memory goes, your brain sort of often may change a little bit the way that it remembers it, and then the way
Mm.
that you think about it now, and you may add something to it, and so your brain will save it with that new information. So it may not be the original thing that happened.
So who's telling my brain to update it then?
Yeah, yeah,
Who's doing this?
right. It's like your experiences,
Yeah.
your experience, because then I don't know, like you watch a lot of like scary movies, right,
I
about evil
love it.
spirits and
I
stuff.
love it.
So your mind may be putting fragments of those into that memory and being like making patterns, like I say, filling in the gaps of parts that maybe you don't remember of that
Yeah.
memory. And by now, it's become like a really big thing, like a core memory that you're like, well, I believe this because of that memory. But it's just a pretty complex process that the brain goes through in order to create the reality that we have. And speaking of that,
Oh,
speaking of that, we can start talking about drugs.
yeah. So I have a video
Wait,
I wanted to watch about DMT.
Oh
We
yeah,
could
let's watch.
if we
Let's
could
DMT.
watch that. Yeah.
What's this about?
So this is
yeah.
gonna.
Let me
So
mention something real quick. Like I
okay.
was reading that people who have near death experiences, pretty much every single time that near death experience that they remember when they come back into their consciousness is it matches whatever religion they are. If it's a Hindu or if it's a Muslim, then
Mhm.
they're gonna be seeing their type of heaven or hell that their religion taught them. So
Yeah.
it's it is said that near death experiences are just sort of like the brain playing memories and putting them together and making up that that narrative to create the afterlife that you want there to be, basically.
So let me
Did
ask
you
you this
believe?
question. I
They're
have a
kind of like a
very,
dream. Yeah.
All
I
Oh
right.
have
yeah,
a, I have a question for you, AJ.
sure.
Like you talking about the reasons about my dreams and all of this stuff. Uh, what makes you want to find an explanation?
What made me want to find an explanation for the
Yeah,
dreams?
what makes you want to find an explanation? Because there's a lot of other stories I can tell you about, and I guess it's a different person, you know. So I kind of like when the impossible happens, I kind of just dedicate that to God, you know. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, that shouldn't have happened, you know.
But when you like, but the God
Yeah,
that you think of in your mind when you say that you connect, those thoughts or those dreams or those visions with
Yeah,
with a God, is it the God that the Christ, like the Christian God that you would see like in the Bible, or do you think that it's a different God maybe that kind of with similarities,
it might just
but a more
be it might just be my morality, but I'll give you a better background of where I came from, you know, religious wise. I know there's a bad stigma against religion, and that's a main reason why I left the church, like I said before. But keep in mind, my church was different. It was different, and like most church, we had a male as a pastor. most church, right? Right. Um, a lot of churches like to say, "Oh, a woman can't be a pastor," but in my church, a woman was a pastor. So I think there's differences there. There's definitely differences. I align more to them, but like I hear these other churches, talking about, like I said, I don't care if you agree or disagree with transgender rights, racism, anything. Bottom line, you should love people. You should give them the respect they deserve, and that's one thing I don't like about a lot of churches. They're not like that. They're like, you're going to hell, and I mean that makes me sad, But like from the background that I came from, we didn't really talk about that. Maybe it was a problem that something like, oh, we don't discuss that. Maybe, but it was more about love, and I don't. So I don't really freaking what Christians do nowadays. They make a bad rep for everything because keep in mind, I'm a passionate believer. I know I don't talk about religion to y'all because y'all have your reasons to not be religious,
Yeah,
But
no,
like
I understand
my
that.
my whole life, it's like, I want to do good. I have seen my family struggle. I have seen all that. So I try to point like the dreams. I try to point that stuff to a higher power.
Mhm.
Makes me happy, but in reality, that might not be a really.
Well, I mean, we're kind of
I don't
we're
know.
kind of the same in that aspect, though. I mean, I think we all want what's best for our family. We all want to see our family be safe. We all want
Yeah.
to, have family members to share experiences with. Um, my thing, like I said, I didn't grow up in a like where I was in a religious background. Like my family members like believed in, were believers, but I never like actually read the Bible or went to church or anything. So um I don't know. It's just I like hearing your view on it, and how you actually what gives you your faith to make you believe, that there is a
Yeah.
heaven, I mean,
Yeah.
if a heaven does exist, I mean, there are parts of it that seem fair, but then there's also things that I
Are horrible.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, not horrible, but things that I would question, that would make me like doubt that there is a heaven. Like I think I don't know if you've talked about it with us before. I know I've had the discussion with AJ, um, about forgiveness and like repenting, like to be able to repent your sins and go into heaven. I've always had a conflict with that after I
Mhm.
learned more about it. Like if a rapist like rapes my daughter and then he repents right before, he repents for his sin, and then he gets to go to heaven too, and he's like there and my daughter's there and she has to like spend eternity like in heaven with like the guy that raped her, but she's supposed
Yeah.
to forgive him. I mean, to me there's just like something that like I like to me like rapist or anyone,
Yeah.
child molesters, like that's like the worst sin you could commit. I think I would think that a loving God would not let that sin be forgiven. It's like, why does he let
Yeah.
them to be in heaven and force like the person who was the victim have to live in eternity with their, you know,
Trauma.
yeah, with that trauma. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know. So there's just that's one of the things, that
Yeah.
actually just makes me question it. And
I
Yeah.
don't.
Then when you asked me a question at the beginning of when you started talking about this, and you that I wanted to reply to, and you asked like why did I want to find an answer to like your dreams and your experiences, and
Your life in
you
general
know
too.
yeah, for me it's with everything. Okay, when like I was saying earlier, when I say something, I didn't used to be this way. Okay, it's something that I've sort of developed this process as I start thinking and learning more about different things, and realized that I wasn't putting the same method to certain to thinking about certain things as I was for other things, and so for me it's all about trying to figure out exactly where that came from, like what type of okay, I hear these cats. I apologize,
Tell that
guys.
cat to
If
shut
you
up.
if you can hear that screaming, I promise
Oh man.
We
You're not sacrificing the cat.
Oh
we're
man.
we are not eating the cats.
Not eating the cats.
Wow. Wow. That's a whole topic we can get into. That's crazy. Oh man. Don't get me
Anyways,
started.
Alright,
Don't get me started on that
but
guy.
you're gonna make her
Uh,
lose her train of thought.
yeah.
She was getting to a
yeah.
very good point.
Anyways, yeah. So I was going towards like I asked you earlier, like what are the implications of the claim that I'm making,
Mm,
right? Like I heard somebody the other day say that um he had found this item that belonged to his mom, and his mom had just passed away. And when he hung the item on a window, it was shining a light like really black, really bright and glowing. And so he looked at it, and it reminded him of his mom, and he broke down crying, and he was very emotional. But he's not a religious person. And so people, this was on Facebook, and people on his post began to bring religion into it, and they were like, "Oh, that's your mom sending you a message." But he was like, "Well, look, the implications of what you're telling me are the following. You're telling me that my mom was not a believer, and you're telling me that she went to
just
heaven,
talking. That's
right?
crazy. That is crazy.
So
Yeah.
you're claiming um, that she is now a ghost, that she is still on earth, that she, even though she is a supernatural being, which is a ghost, she can interact with the natural world. What did she do? Did she manipulate the sun? Did she manipulate the item? You're making a lot of claims
Yeah.
that have no foundation, that you have no evidence for. So when we may be trying to make somebody feel better about something, truly what we're doing is making claim after claim after claim that we're making up, just to make ourselves
I
feel
mean,
better, to
I
give
think it's
comfort.
I think maybe sometimes people confuse, yeah, some people do believe that when things like that happen, but I think it's your mind kind of like your mind again tricking you, because
Yeah,
there's things that you have, like if he had good memories, or memories of his mom in that
yeah.
item, and then if it lights up like that, that triggers those memories that you have
But
of your mom, so you think about them, which is nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's things that
So
I have that
it's
are
how
memories
your
of my dad.
brain,
Yeah.
so
it's your
is
brain making you feel those
Correct.
emotions.
Correct.
Yeah,
Like triggering those memories basically.
neurotransmitters.
Yeah, it always goes back to the neurotransmitters.
so why are you not in control of your own brain? It's my brain. Why can't I decide where to activate it or not? Why is it working on its own?
But I think you can if you
You
that's what
can,
um
meditation is, right?
but the brain still works on its own.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you can
it does, yeah.
Why?
you can influence it, you can
Yeah.
influence your brain. Like when I had this experience where I was really depressed a few months ago, and I couldn't bring myself out of it. And my mom was like, "Hey, you have to do something, like do something for yourself that will make you feel better, that will force you to feel better." And I was like, "Well, like I can't force myself to feel better." And then one day a song came on, and I actually did feel better. It was like the dopamine just released
Shut up.
through, because that song had a lot of meaning to me, and it triggered positive memories. And so those positive memories triggered my brain into producing those neurotransmitters. So what you can do, if you're feeling a certain way, if you're feeling negative energy or whatever, is you can do things that will bring the positive neurotransmitters back. Like things that cause you joy, things that cause you pleasure, like bringing your dopamine, your serotonin, your oxytocin back up. Like hug somebody, like, I don't know, go find somebody to have sex with.
Oh, human centipede.
Oh
That
my
should
god.
be,
Not the human centipede.
oh man.
If you're getting your
What's
dopamine from that, then you might be a psycho, man. You might be a
that
psycho.
made you laugh, Sean? It made you laugh.
It did
So
make you laugh. It did make you laugh. She made a good point.
yeah, yeah. I guess it's a. I mean, I guess we can put it as a comedy now, then, right? And as long as we're watching it together.
Yeah.
So Rochester Swift, you can
I'm
only
good.
ignore your instincts. You can't turn them off. That's that's very true. Very true. I agree
Yeah.
with that. How do you guys feel about that? women,
You
guys,
can only
gals.
ignore your instincts. You can turn them off. Well, yeah, yeah. I would say like your instincts are, um, yeah, kind of like the way your brain responds to something, right? So you can't really make your brain not respond to like memories or to like
But can
a
you can you
song,
re-
like I said, to a song.
can you reprogram it though to not react the same way?
Well, yeah, there's like types of therapy that you can do. There's one like the one that I mentioned to Anthony on the other stream where they use eye movement to sort of reprocess memories. So if you have a very negative traumatic memory, then you tell it to a therapist who's trained in that, and the therapist will help you tell that memory in parts to whichever gives you the worst response, I guess. And then they use like tapping or eye movement to make your brain focus on that instead of on the extreme emotion that you're feeling. And so when you do it over and over, then you can rewire your brain to where you tell the story and you don't feel the same way that you
Yeah,
did when you told it a few times before.
basically it doesn't trigger the same
Yeah, that the same
neurotransmitters.
yeah,
That
exactly.
goes back to that. All right, Kim, let's watch the video real
The
quick
video.
on
Right.
DMT. Okay.
ATVs.
Let me see here.
So Reese. Sorry.
Is that the
The
same?
same one.
You keep sharing the wrong one.
All
That's
right.
not- all right.
Well, it seems like Joe Cognitive Echo can't choose the video. Would you like to go ahead and waste a human? Play the video.
Hold on, guys. Hold on.
I don't
Let me
have
try.
his video.
Let me try one more time. I keep selecting the wrong tab. That it's my fault. Old age, old age.
Probably.
I would say, everybody, we do have 5 people watching. Make sure to like the stream. It doesn't hurt and it helps the algorithm.
No,
The algorithms. Looks like 6 now.
actually, you guys have just confused me because it's not the same video. It's by the
Is
same.
it?
It's the
Oh,
same channel.
I see. Yeah. They look
God,
the same.
y'all got me thinking that I'm crazy. That I'm crazy. I thought I
Right.
chose the wrong video 3 times.
DMT is a substance that's produced naturally in a variety of plants and animals, including humans. The functions of naturally produced DMT are unclear, but DMT is also a potent psychoactive drug known for its ability to produce intense but relatively short-lived hallucinations and psychedelic experiences. When used recreationally, DMT is typically smoked, but it's also the main psychoactive ingredient in ayahuasca, a brewed drink that produces longer-lasting psychedelic effects. Although orally administered DMT is rapidly degraded by an enzyme called monoamine oxidase, ayahuasca is brewed with plants that contain inhibitors of this enzyme, enabling the DMT in ayahuasca to remain active even though it's administered orally. The pharmacology of DMT is not well understood. The drug has actions at a variety of receptors in the nervous system, but its best characterized effects are its ability to stimulate a wide range of serotonin receptor subtypes. Studies suggest that DMT's action at the 5-HT2A serotonin receptor is especially important for producing its characteristically intense visual hallucinations. At the same time, stimulation of the 5-HT2A receptor alone does not seem to be sufficient to cause the hallucinations experienced by DMT users. Thus, it's thought that other serotonin receptor subtypes might be involved in these effects, and some evidence suggests that receptors for the neurotransmitter glutamate may play a role as well. It's also possible that DMT's actions at other receptors, such as sigma-1 receptors and traceamine-associated receptors, may contribute to the drug's effects, but more research is needed to elucidate DMT's full mechanism of action. DMT, like many other psychedelic drugs, is now gaining attention for its therapeutic potential. Studies with ayahuasca have found the drink to have beneficial effects in the treatment of depression, anxiety, and addiction, and studies are currently underway to investigate the possibility of DMT alone offering some of the same benefits.
Interesting.
What do y'all think? What do y'all think?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Are they selling this drug on the streets now, or where can I get some of this DMT?
It seems like it says people smoke it, right? So I would
Yeah.
assume that it's something that you can.
Well, let's have a DMT session then. right now.
I don't know. I've seen some crazy stories about that. People do like deep mind DMT, trips, which is like I would say it's way more intense than probably mushrooms or even LSD.
Oh,
It's got to be maybe I don't know if you would consider it more closer to ketamine, maybe, um, if it would have the
Probably.
same type of effect. It's a short lasting trip, but it's really
Yeah.
really intense when you do take it.
are
So
there?
I have. Were you gonna ask something,
I was just gonna
Damien?
ask a quick question about: are there
Yeah,
negative
go
effects
ahead.
to this drug?
Mm, a negative effects
Effects?
booster, you said?
No, are there negative effects from this drug? Or no?
Oh yeah, I don't know about that. I'm sure there
Okay.
are.
Yeah.
Just like with any other. What does that message say? The study of psychedelics render the mind-body problem rather obsolete. Agree or disagree? Well, I think that the it's a hard question to answer because I think that we have a pretty good idea of what the mind is, and when you add drugs to it, what you're doing is just altering the mind. So you're not necessarily completely saying that it doesn't exist, or yeah, I guess you could say that there's different states of consciousness because when you get blackout drunk, you are said to lose consciousness, right? And as we mentioned at the beginning, consciousness is just like your awareness of yourself. So the more you drink or the more you take of a drug, the less aware you are of yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like your consciousness level is decreasing. Does that mean that your mind is no longer there? No, that's not necessarily it. Your mind will
Yeah.
still be there. It's just not functioning at
The
its
same.
normal level that it would, right?
Yeah.
But would it
um
be so you wouldn't agree that you could be disassociated? Like some people experience, out of body experience on hallucinogenics, where they say they, kind of like near death experiences, where they say that like hovering over a room, where they can see their self like sitting on a couch or doing something like an out of body
um
experience, like from hallucinogenics.
yeah,
Or
there's been studies of that actually. So they had people who were in an operating room who were having, like, say, cardiac surgery, and they would put above the the cabinets in the hospital room, they would put a sign that said something, right? Like a big note. I don't know. It said whatever, hello, or what's your name? Some kind of random message, and they will ask the people when they will wake up whether they had a near death experience, and the ones that said yes, that they were floating above, they were like, well, what was above the cabinets? And not a single person could answer that.
did they look?
So,
Did they
well,
look or no?
it was in a spot where it would be easily visible, and the
Mm.
the person will describe, sort of like what they would have already seen when going into the operating room. Like, oh yeah, there was this machine, or there was this color table, things that they would have already seen, but nothing that they could have seen from above. Like they couldn't even tell what color was the cabinet on the top, or things that were very obvious.
I
So
guess I guess like going back to the dreams and what we're talking about now, there's I guess a, a energy around this where it's like people are confusing their dreams with reality, basically.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. I mean, visions are sort of like the same as it's a very similar concept to a hallucination, where your different parts of the brain are performing in such different ways than they would when you're sober and awake and aware and rested,
Hmm.
that your mind is trying to make sense of that, and it can't, because it's just too overloaded. Yeah, it's just too much for the brain to make sense. And then in the case of drugs, for example, so as I mentioned, the way that the brain connects, the neurons connect with each other. One of them is going to be sending the neurotransmitter, and the other one is going to be receiving it, right? So what happens when you take a stimulant, for example, like cocaine, is that the the sensors that send the neurotransmitters out are supposed to take them back in after the message has been sent. So they're going back and forth. But the stimulants actually block the neurotransmitters from going back into where they came from. So they stay out here and they continue to send messages and send messages. That's why you get like, ooh, like so hyper, and you're moving fast and the whole world feels like it's moving fast. And that's what's happening when there's too much of the neurotransmitters. There's other things that can cause that naturally, like I said, not being rested, being in a stressful situation, being in a traumatic situation. There's just so many aspects that can cause that. Then when you take a depressant like alcohol, for example, then the opposite happens. There's too little neurotransmitters going from one neuron to the other, so it's not able to send the message of what you're supposed to be doing. Like if you're drunk and you're supposed to be grabbing this, the part of the brain that deals with movement is is way lower in function. So you're gonna keep missing the battle because you can't like make the correct moves that you're supposed to make. That's why people stumble. Your speech becomes slurred because the part of the brain that processes your language, the function lowers. You start slurring, like not making sense. You basically become dumb and yeah.
Do you want to add anything, Joe?
No, I've experienced that plenty of times.
Huh.
Being drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking
um,
of a ketamine, I have when I used to have my pain procedures, they would give me a shot of ketamine, and right before putting me out. And there was this one time where they were supposed to keep me awake until we went into the operating room because I was supposed to have some type of I don't know, something added to my face, like a where they were gonna hold me with it, and they wanted to put it on while I was still awake. And I told them that when we were still in the room that I needed to have the ketamine, after they put me after they put that on. And I guess they forgot, or the nurse didn't know, so she gave me the ketamine while I was still in my room, and I started tripping, like tripping. I could hear everybody, but I
Yeah.
couldn't I couldn't really see them very well. It was like everybody was just kind of there, like my brain wasn't blocking them out. And I was like in this tube that was like a Minecraft, like the blocks on Minecraft. So like all around me and above me was like all Minecraft images, and everybody that I tried to look around at the people to see what, because I could hear the doctors talking to me. I guess they were trying to tell me what to do, and everybody looked like Minecraft characters.
oh man.
And there was
That's
even
awesome.
a penguin character, and it was like the craziest trip.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
ketamine in a high dose like you received for those procedures is definitely a
Yeah.
very 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 powerful hallucinogenic.
Yeah,
Um,
but that's because the hallucinogenics, they work on that part of the brain that affects your self awareness. So you're no longer aware of who you are. You don't even
Yeah.
know who you are. You don't know that other people are other people, and it
Wow.
completely distorts everything. Like your sensory, like you can feel things that maybe are not there, or not feel things that are there. And
Yeah.
you can have visual, auditory hallucinations, all kinds of things. Yeah.
well, like the DMT, one of the aspects I wanted to talk about, I know we didn't watch a video on it, but I don't know a whole lot of knowledge on it, but I do know that supposedly it is produced, when you die, like it's released in a pretty high dose. Have you heard that before or no, AJ?
Yeah, I've heard about that. I think it has been pretty studied, and that's why they attribute sort of like
The
these
flash, like
this
seeing your whole
near
life
that.
flash
Yeah,
flash before your eyes, like where
yeah.
people say they remember it, like everything, like they see their childhood, they see.
Well, because it's your brain just replaying everything. Yeah.
Why do you think that's the case though?
Yeah,
Why?
it makes you wonder why does your brain release that at that moment to like make
Yeah.
you like go through all those memories?
Yeah,
Why?
I don't know
Because people that
exactly.
have near death experiences, like they actually, from what I understand, that does get released, and that's what makes them experience that after death experience. But then they don't actually die; they're revived and brought back. So like they got to experience like uh,
There.
that. Well, it's a hallucinogenic though. We know it's DMT. It's the
Yeah,
same thing we were just talking about.
It's so crazy.
and
So
Fudge.
so
it's
it's
all
like
things that
your
are released by the brain. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like your mind, your body naturally like releasing that to make you trip and like go through all your memories like
Why?
when it knows you're gonna die.
Do
I
animals
don't.
go through this too, or no?
That's a good question. I've never like read studies on that,
Yeah, I have not either.
but I
Yeah.
would think that their
'Cause-
brains probably function similarly. I mean, but maybe there might be
right?
Well,
some
yeah, I
research on
mean,
that.
Because
chimpanzees are only like 1% different in DNA from humans. So, and their brains are like pretty much almost the same.
We'll have to look
yeah,
that up. I wonder if it's
yeah. Because
if
now
they're
I'm curious. Like, why are we all destined? Because that's not an evolution thing. So why are we? Why does that happen?
Like what part?
About the brain sending that drug right when you die or have a near death experience.
Well, it did say on the video that Joe showed us earlier that it's released throughout different stages in our life. That it's a natural
So it's not a one time
chemical.
thing
Yeah, but it's not a one-time thing for sure. No, it's just releasing a little bit higher amount
when
at
you're
that
dying.
time, and I think it could be the same mechanism where, well, when you die, you kind of lose control of a lot of your bodily functions, like
Yeah,
people urinate and other, you know, bodily functions happen
yeah,
that you're no longer in control of, and so it could be that it is only releasing whatever was stored in the brain at the time, and it
yeah,
could be that it was high enough to cause hallucinations and mixed up with other neurotransmitters that may be released at the same time. It could be a combination that makes your brain sort of jumble all these types of memories.
yeah. So I guess this might be off topic, but it's pretty similar. Um, when we die, does our skin, like our meat inside, does it move and everything? And the reason why I ask is because like when certain fishes that I like, because I do fishing, right? When I cut up the fish, after they're dead, the body is still moving. So is that like DMT? Is that a different drug?
that's your.
Uh,
I mean,
for
well,
fish, I
no,
have
he's
heard that. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
I don't know exactly what happens, but I would think it probably has to do with a lot
it's
of like uh
it's nerve
different
movement, right?
neurons.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, like neurons still firing because when you die, like you still have a little bit of oxygen and you still have a little bit of like uh I don't know, I guess what we call like potential energy, like the
yeah.
way your
You
your
finish up
your
the
brain
energy.
fires neurons takes energy, like actual energy, like what you will use to run a car, right?
Yeah,
Like energy doesn't necessarily mean it's something is alive. It's just like the transfer of energy. So it
so
could
it's
be
like the
that
last
that's some, yeah, it's
the
like
last message, the last instruction they
yeah,
gave
yeah,
before you.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah. Because I have
so
seen that
Wow.
happen with a chicken before, with
Yeah,
a chicken that had its head cut off. So
yeah,
yeah,
they'll run around in circles. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've never seen it, but I've heard the story from my grandma, my grandpa. My dad actually told
man.
the story of having to chop a chicken's head off and seen
Tell
it
the
run around in the
story.
yard. No, my grandma. I mean, they had chickens, and
Yeah.
that's she would go grab a chicken, bring it in the kitchen, chop its head off, and it would run around.
And what made your dad tell you that story?
I don't know. I mean, there's an experience
He liked.
that he learned. I mean, that he experienced. So I don't know if he loved it. Maybe I'm sure the chicken tastes good. No, my grandma cooked it.
Oh, your mama knew how to cook. So
okay, so the question, could you discuss ergotism? How does a substance generated by the fungus work?
oh
I
so
shoot.
don't. I don't know exactly, but I think it's kind of like a poison, right? It's like a poisonous fungus
Yeah,
that
I
they're
think
talking about.
it normally grows, I believe, on rye. You'll see it like in the yeah, the dirt. I
How did you
always
know that?
I've heard it before. It's called, I think that's ergot, right? If that's how you say it correctly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think it would be similar to like the way hallucinogenics work, sort of like reduce and increase the function of certain neurotransmitters to where some of them can be like neurotoxins and they can actually kill the neurons and that cause a level of toxicity that can be fatal. What does that one say? Can you read it for me, please?
Exceptionally average says apparently it's not only humans who show a spike in brain activity at the moment of death.
Okay,
Oh,
it's
awesome.
animals.
Awesome. That's pretty
Wow.
cool.
Yeah,
We learned
thanks for
So
that
something.
insight. Thanks for that.
so does this go all the way down to like insects too and everything? And like I
There
guess
are a lot. I actually had a conversation with Objectively Dan about veganism when we were in Austin, and he was telling me about bees, and he was saying that bees have like really complex like societies basically, and so in a way there has to be some type of consciousness to them, right? So it makes you think about like where do we draw the line of what is what animals are conscious.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
that's
Yeah,
true.
I do wonder, well, not wonder, but I do think about that for sure. I mean, you see, I mean, even ants, like an ant pile, like they're
Yeah.
serving the queen, but are they like
Do they know they're doing that?
right? Because a lot
yeah,
I've heard like ants, like they're kind of controlled, like that the queen like controls them to make them like work for her by sending out like high frequencies. I've heard, is that true? I think I've heard that
yeah,
before.
yeah.
Yeah.
They have different types of communications than
Yeah.
what we do. And I mean, a lot of people think about humans and they're like, well, we're more advanced because we have things like decision making. But when you're looking at bees and ants and the way that they create these really complex pathways and places where their whole society lives, there has to be some type of decision making and
Yeah,
like reasoning,
politics.
some kind of reasoning, like, okay, I'm gonna go get this, so then I come back and I put it here so that I can save it to eat later. There's got to be some kind of thinking going on.
Or the queen ant is a dictator.
Right,
You know?
but then they do have to make that decision to follow the
Yeah,
leader,
that is so
right?
crazy. Because they
So
can overpower her.
so let me ask you something. It has a little bit to do with religion.
Okay.
How do you, because I know that you believe in the biblical God and Adam and Eve story. So if if humans were created in the image of God,
Yeah.
why are animals so similar to humans?
In regards to
Like their biology, their
right.
their behavior, their they have all the same neurotransmitters that we have, where they can feel the same emotions. They can feel jealousy, love.
Yeah.
They can,
Yeah.
why do you think we are so similar if humans are meant to be superior?
I mean that is a good question. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you the answer that every religious person gives you. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, I'll
And
take
and
that
to
one.
At least
No,
you
and,
admit it. At least you admit it.
that
I mean,
and
yeah.
that's actually not the answer that I ever get, and I'm
yeah,
glad you gave me that answer because I
yeah.
prefer I prefer to hear I don't know than a Bible verse that you can't back
Yeah.
up.
I think especially with me, I was, for the people that are barely joining or have been watching, I was in the church. I was very a firm believer. I still am because I seen the good come out of it. Directly in my family. We used to get through a lot of hardships, and we still are. And I seen how my family is when religion is there, Christianity. We just you know I see it. So but there's things I don't agree with, of course.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm not your typical Christian.
Yeah.
I kind of just I do what I want to do. I do good, and the way I was raised within my family, I'm like, okay, I need to
Yeah.
show love, and
I,
I don't like it when people use religion to suppress people. It's definitely not a
Yeah.
good thing, and that's there's definitely a lot of things I don't agree with. And like I said, I don't go to the church because of those reasons, and
Yeah.
but I do firmly believe, and that's the main reason why I'm not preaching to anybody. You know, I'm not. I think Joe and Waste of Human can tell y'all like I never try to convince them to be religious. Never have.
no, no,
Uh,
that's why we
But
I think that's why we have such a good relationship, and
yeah,
like we can openly discuss religion and go back and forth, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, we both like understand each other's views as our own view, and we don't
yeah.
push our views on each other. Basically, we respect each other.
yeah.
Exactly, and that's just a same thing with my Muslim friends. You know, never try to tell them their religion is wrong. Never have, because everybody has their own experience, and there's a I hate to say it, but there's also a lot of people that claim to be very religious and they're not. Behind closed doors, they're not.
Yeah.
They end up being very horrible. And I don't want to get into that whole deep rabbit hole, but that just gives you a better perspective of why the way I am. So
Yeah. So
For sure.
Rochester said, "I don't know is both is both the more moral and more honest answer than just quoting Genesis."
Yeah.
And I mean, like we said, I appreciate you saying that. Just like AJ said, I mean, for someone to admit, they just don't know. I mean, to me, it
And
sounds
yeah,
good.
we
yeah,
do that a lot in when you were looking at scientific stuff, and we're like, okay, like there's evidence for this and this and this and this, like a missing piece here and a missing piece here, and I don't know that and I don't know that, but it doesn't mean that we're not gonna find out. Like at
yeah.
some point we are gonna find out, but
At some
What do you
point,
yeah.
what do you think about this comment? Damien says Damien is obviously morally superior to his own faith. 500
yeah,
years ago, he would have been burned as a heretic. Yeah, I mean, which is true because you would be considered to
yeah,
be going against the word.
yeah. Yeah, and
It's
that's a
just
sad thing. That's definitely very sad. That's it. It shouldn't be like that. There's a point where this is my whole perspective on this whole issue. It's like I'm religious. I know bad things come out of it, but when you use religion to like hurt people, when you suppress people, when you're taking people's happiness, are you really? Are you? What are you telling the person? Like God wants you to be like this because at least from the perspective that I get from the Bible, and I know there's other points that doesn't point to that, but it talks about a God being loving, right?
Yeah.
They talk about a God being loving, accepting of everybody because everybody's his creation, right? But then you have religious people judging these people, hating on them, suppressing them, making them feel horrible. That's I can't connect those two, and it's like that's my whole big problem with religion. But if
Yeah, but I think it's a really big thing to do when you can recognize that there are both good and bad things about religion. I don't think that religion is all bad. Okay, like I can see that there's a community, that there's the sense of belonging, that there's the comfort, that there's a lot of religions that do a lot of humanitarian stuff. The one thing I always say is that there is really nothing that religion provides that cannot be obtained from a secular uh, uh, perspective or method. So, like, you can have community, you can have humanitarianism, you can have comfort, all from
yeah,
both religion and not religion. So, to me, it's like, okay, like, would I rather go and with something that I have a lot of evidence for, or something that I have to continue putting God, in the gaps where I don't know, and say, well, it must be God.
yeah,
So, like, that's where I went when I decided that I could no longer believe, and I found a lot of different things really really useful, and one of them was like reading about philosophy. Philosophy is like, I know you said you watched the Good Place,
yeah. It's a good
like
show.
all the stuff that they discussed on there, like it really makes you think about ethics and uh, and morals and all that kind of stuff. Like when you look into like all the concepts that have been studied over like thousands of years, they really do make sense a lot more. I don't know, you get a more varied amount of perspectives and methods by which to determine what's moral or what's right or what's wrong and what's good and what's bad and all that. And I think when Joe first saw me getting into the YouTube community, the atheist community, he was a little bit worried because he thought that it was more like a Satanist type of group where they believed in like all this, the negative, like evil and all that. Because
He's
I think
very
there's a really big misconception of the word.
he's from that old generation, AJ.
Well,
So
no,
you know,
I think you just I went in, I entered it into like the going into it thinking you have to really look at everything I think the word atheist or atheism has a bad rap. Like they when
Yeah.
like people they try to associate like satanic cults with if you're an atheist then you're automatically like sacrificing goats and you know and doing crazy stuff like that.
man.
But in reality it's not that. It's just an atheist, you know, it's just not believing or basically saying that you don't have enough proof to say there is a god. So I mean you just don't believe in that because
Yeah.
you haven't found the proof yet.
And I
Like there's this really good analogy that one of the guys that we watch on the shows puts out there, right, to help people understand where he's coming from. And he's like, well, if I told you that there's a goblin in my closet named
yeah,
Roland that eats Subway sandwiches,
yeah,
like what
something
are you
savage.
gonna say? Yeah, like what, like do you believe me? Do you believe me?
No, no, not at all. And I
Right.
think
Like anybody can make a claim and he could write a book about
exactly,
it.
exactly.
And so you have to, like, we don't ask people to stop believing in what they
Yeah,
believe, just to use the same methodology that you're using for figuring out whether Roland is real or not, to figuring out whether what you believe in is real or not.
yeah.
Well, I think
I,
another bad misconception though of the being an atheist is that you don't have any moral, you know, that your morality is like
Yeah.
lacking and that
which I never
you're
understood
a
that.
horrible person just because you don't have you know God in your life.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been judged on that like plenty of times, but I mean, I probably have I'm probably nicer and live a more moral life than a lot of like hardcore Christians out there spewing hate
Yeah.
against like you know trans or gays and you know just like a lot. There's you have the hardcore like conservative or well yeah they would be like usually hardcore conservative religious like
Yeah.
Christians and those are like the worst. Like I mean they try to push their views on you and they judge like harder than anybody else.
there might be a conservative Christian in this chat, so don't let's keep politics out of it.
I
Well,
know.
well, stop judging me if you're out there. Don't judge me.
Man, I wanted to say this though. Going back to what you said about the how how can you I guess believe in something even when it points away, or what did you ask, AJ? I forgot. What?
No, it wasn't necessarily like a question. Just like are you using the same method that you
Yeah,
used to discount my claim about Roland being real,
yeah,
to analyze the God that you believe in?
yeah. And like I said, I guess my point, my little 2 cent on that is that like everybody goes through different things, and but everybody should be loved, you know. Um, I choose to believe in what I believe in because like I've seen the good things that comes out of my like is done to my family, but I can't ignore the thing. I lost, I lost my train of thought, guys. Man,
You're good. You're good.
You can't ignore that some of the bad things that contradict
yeah,
that you were saying.
you can't ignore. So I'm just that Subway sandwich sounded good, basically. Sorry, guys. That's why my head's going somewhere else. I keep on
We
thinking about
might
the
have
Subway
to,
sandwich. You
yeah.
said
I'll
But
get the goblin to bring us
yeah.
some.
Are you sure?
Oh,
Maybe it was Jared. Is it Jared actually hiding in the closet?
I don't know.
I hope not.
I will say this though. Uh, I think life is just crazy. It's amazing. It's awesome, and I think, oh man, now that we're talking about the near death experience, I wanted to bring this up too. I feel like I I love. I don't know if y'all watch Grey's Anatomy. I'm not
I,
I
sure.
don't. I know AJ's a vivid follower of Grey's
You
Anatomy.
need to
yeah,
get into it. If y'all haven't watched it, get into it. Trust me. And the I'm always like, I kid you not, I'm always crying like in every episode. But what gets me so freaking like sad is not that, it's not the death part. It's never the death part. What makes me sad is like it's just I'm amazed. It's tears of joy. Right before that person dies, it's like everything else in the world doesn't matter. It's just about that human connection between the two people, you know? There's no politics, there's no religion, there's no health, there's nothing. It's just about that relationship with that person. And that, I think that's how we should live in today's society. You know, like I'm a religious person, I have religious beliefs, but I still love y'all, you know? I can't say that about every Christian, you know? But y'all are don't believe in a higher power, but y'all still love me, y'all respect me, you know, and that's how life should be, because what truly matters is the relationship. So I think, for the people watching, be careful what you say, you know, like there's things you say and you don't, it hurts people, you don't know what it means, but it you don't know what people go through. And yeah, just love love everybody like it's your last day, you know, because that's
Yeah.
how we should
Well,
live life.
yeah,
we should live more in today, or more in this life that we have here, and enjoy it, and remember it, and make those memories, even if, like, even now that in my mind I've changed my view, where I think that everything that I get to experience in this life is not going to be extended or carried on. That doesn't make me not want to experience things with people I love any less on this world, while I'm alive. It actually makes me want to experience more things with more people, and expand my view, and learn more things, and be a more loving and better person, because if this was the only life I have, and I know I don't,
yeah.
there's nothing to look forward in the afterlife, I want to enjoy everything to the fullest right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I meant earlier when I was saying that you can have comfort even when you don't believe in an afterlife or in God. And for me, that's where my comfort comes in knowing that the people that I have, that I love here right now, that I can spend time with them, that I can make memories with, and that those memories are gonna live on with them, for the rest of their lives. And so that's, I don't know. To me, that's comforting, and that's like it makes me want to have more good times here.
And be more impactful while you're here as well, so
Yeah,
you make a legacy for yourself that can live on, and make, actually, you can live on forever through that type of thing, because whatever you do now is going to change. Like, if we can make the world a more loving place by educating people to be more accepting of transgenders, then it would make it, you're making an you're like, well, that's going to live on in the future, because you're gonna that's going to affect people's lives in the future, basically, even though
yeah.
after I die, like, what I did to educate people, or to make people understand that, then it's going to make the world a more loving place even after I'm gone.
yeah,
Like I can say both Joe and I used to not understand that topic really well. Like, I don't know, 10 years ago, we probably would have said, "Oh, transgender people shouldn't have surgery," right? Or something negative like that. But I feel like by being more open minded and allowing ourselves to be around people who are having these experiences, and letting them show us that they're just human beings trying to be human beings, and that they're just as deserving to be themselves as we are, then that helped us tremendously to grow and to open up our own minds. And now, obviously both of us are advocates for that cause. And so I think that's something that when you leave something like that behind, that it makes a difference, and it doesn't matter whether you believe or not at that point. And I think that's another thing that came out of the whole atheist community, and these people that I've been meeting. And that at first Joe was kind of like intimidated to get to know everybody, and the more he's been listening to the shows, and he actually got to meet some of them in person, and talk to some of them over virtual talks. And the more he gets to know them, I don't know if you feel that way, Joe, but it seems to me that
It's just more
you're
comforting to know that
yeah, that
people
there's
like
more people.
I really get a feeling of them being like judgment is just like thrown out the door. Like no matter what you talk about, even if you talk about that you're religious, they'll listen to you because like everybody, they know everyone is gonna
Was
be at a
religious, yeah.
yeah, is gonna be at a certain point in their life. Like yeah, everybody does come. Most of everyone that I've met has come from a very religious background. Yeah, go ahead,
What's
Damien.
up?
I guess to question for you, Joe. I guess as an atheist, what are you? Uh, are there conservative, like Republican, atheists and
Yeah, there.
Democrat atheists,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
is
atheists can
it
have all types of different
Oh
views. I
yeah.
mean, you
so?
don't have to be just believe that there's no proof of a God.
So atheism isn't just about human quality of life for a human. It can be
Yeah,
about other
well,
things. There's different types of atheism, basically.
yeah, there's sort of a few different types. Like you can call
Okay.
yourself just an atheist, or there's people that call themselves atheist, humanist atheists. And I would say that's the majority of them. And humanist is more about what you say, like the human quality of life. And a
Yeah,
lot of where the morals and ethics for humanists come from is from having the least amount of harm to other humans. And that
Hmm.
can be any kind of harm, like, like don't kill, don't, do this,
Yeah.
don't steal. Even the same types of morals that you get from biblical scripture, or any other type of religion. uh, you can have it, you can get it from a humanist perspective.
yeah.
So I would say
I would go more
personally,
towards
humanist.
humanism, like the
Yeah.
humanist. Yeah, I mean, I'm just all about being a good person, and I mean, having good morals. Living life to where you're not causing harm to anybody. You're not judging anybody. Um, just being a loving person. Basically. You want to see humans all get along, which I know is like probably like the hardest thing ever, but I really think that religion really keeps humans at war because it's such a
Divisive, maybe.
yeah, there's so much division between it can
Even
be
in
it's so
within the
powerful.
same,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's so powerful too. I mean, it can be used to control like huge populations, and it can that you put them against each other, and we'll be fighting forever based off
Hmm.
of that.
I don't I don't know. I could be wrong, and somebody in the chat may be able to correct me, but I don't think that there's been any atheist specific wars.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm laughing at it. Oh my god, I'm laughing at a comment that Damien has sent in our chat for the people
Can we read it
behind
to them? Can we
behind the
please read it to
scene.
them, please, guys?
No,
No.
because I don't believe you.
No, I'm talking
Uh,
about the third sentence that I've said.
you All right. So Damien is saying that there's a dead bug on his laptop, and it
Yeah.
looks like a big cockroach. But I don't see him jumping around like there's a big roach on his desk right now.
No,
I
but
told
it's
him,
dead.
I told him to swipe left. To swipe left.
No, but I look at the way I spell cockroach.
I
Yeah,
I
you're
see. I see.
you need
Tell
spell
them.
check.
Tell them.
Oh, all
Oh
right.
man.
Let's
So
let's answer the question. It says,
Yeah.
Exceptionally average says that atheism addresses a single question, and he's talking about the question is there enough evidence for a god? That's the only question when you ask somebody
Well,
if they're an atheist. That's the only thing that we're claiming, that there is not enough evidence for a god. That's all.
well, that's my thing with atheism. Not to we're not talking about respectful conversation. That's like I don't like the idea that atheism's like there's no room for like any higher power. There's nothing. It's just gone. I don't like that idea. I maybe it makes me like a bad human that I'm trying to ignore the
But
reality, but I
okay,
don't.
I need to
I
ask this question then to AJ, because I mean I'm still on.
Well,
This is all still new to me. So, can I be considered to be an atheist? I don't believe that there's a God, for sense like what the religious God, like based off the Christianity God, that type of God. But I do believe that there's a huge possibility that there's a higher power or a higher intelligence somewhere out there in the universe more than a human. But I guess I would still be an atheist though, because I don't. It's not a God that I would want to
um,
worship. I just think there's a
yeah.
higher power. How
Well,
do,
I think it depends on what you mean by higher power. You will have to define that, because a lot of people when they hear the word higher power, you think of a creator, right? Like
yeah,
somebody
true,
who
true,
has the
true. I just
ability
I
to
just think I'm more.
manipulate.
Let me say that I believe that there's a more intelligent being out there than
Yeah,
than a human.
pulling strings.
No, not pulling strings.
No,
No, no, not pulling strings. No, but I
but
just
then
don't think
what
that.
what is
I
it
don't.
doing then?
it's just there. Kind of like, are you
That's a
so
good
when
question.
so when we all die, Joe? You talked about energy. Are you saying there's like a whole universe of just energies together? Is that
No,
kind of
no.
that reality
I
we're
would think
talking?
it's more like how the universe reacts. I mean, it's just a chaos of energy. You have like stars being born, exploding,
Yeah.
black holes, massive black holes. I mean, I think it's not like a energy that's like really in sync with. Oh, well, I guess you. That's a very good
Can you
question.
can you read that one and see if maybe that's what you mean?
From Rochester, the universe around us is very much a power greater than us. Its nature is likely impossible for us to define right now, and deities are the weakest models for it. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think I think that does go with my view, kind of like the concept of what I see it as.
So you're saying something more powerful than us, but not necessarily an intelligent uh,
Yeah, it wouldn't have to. It
being.
wouldn't have. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
But
It
it's
could be.
still a
It could
higher
just.
power.
It could just be more like a more stronger energy that's able to. Um, I mean, the universe is like ran on energy, right? Like, how does our
Yeah,
solar system? I mean, the planets evolve. Are moving in rotation from energy,
yeah.
from like a magnetic field, right? That's created. How do you have more information on that? That's something I'm not very knowledgeable on,
Um,
but it would be.
Damien wants to
Go ahead,
speak.
Damien.
Question to you, Joe. Do
Yeah.
you basically you believe in a higher power, right? So, but it's not a god necessarily. Are you trying to say that we're still going to be something, but we're not going to have a conscience?
Yeah, I told you I used to believe that
Yeah.
maybe our conscious would transfer into like a different area of the universe that we've never been to, like a different galaxy. But that's just a far-fetched, like
Yeah,
theory, like something cool that I believe would. I told you again, I have the box of things that could be
yeah.
when I
But
die, and
but
that would have been a cool one. But
what?
now I kind of don't believe that one. I think the one that moved to the top of my box
Yeah,
of possible scenarios after death would be that my all my thoughts are no longer valid.
yeah. I guess I'm confused. Yeah, what you mean about higher power? Then I'm kind of
Well,
confused.
that would be another, that wouldn't be the same ending, man. That's a different ending.
Yeah, but what's
Yeah.
that? Because that's what you believe in. What is that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't really explain it. It's a feeling where I feel that my, like what I've described to be my soul, which if you watch my video, you would get that explanation. Subscribe, watch that video, um, and so you'll know what I mean by that. But I see it as my soul being energy, and when my physical body died, that it would separate and it would go into like another part of the universe, like transfer, like travel, you know. But that, I told you, that's nothing I had any proof on, and that used to just kind of be like a cool view,
You're
that
hoping.
hope, a cool hope, you
Yeah.
know.
So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so
Yeah, but he's
you're
saying that he no longer believes
I no
that.
longer believe that. I mean, it's still in my box of things that could occur after death, but it's not something that I would like. I would see
Put
it.
your money on,
It
like you
yeah.
wouldn't put your money
yeah.
on it.
It's more like my imagination. It's more like a like an imaginary ending that I think could occur after death, but I don't have any proof that it's even logical.
So you're basically saying that you have hopes, but technically there's no higher power,
Yeah, I mean,
basically.
I think it's okay to have hope, though, right? Isn't it okay to have hope that that could be? But don't
So
I don't want to like live my whole life like based on that hope that I have. You know,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'd rather enjoy living life right now,
Yeah.
and know that if that does occur, then I'll be happy with that. I have hope that that could be,
You hope.
but yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna like shape my life uh just to try to make that scenario come true. Kind of like what religion does. Like
Yeah.
people lose their identity and turn their whole identity into that religion, you know, and they follow it to a, you know, to a T. You know, it's like their manual, and they do everything there to make sure that they can go to heaven. um, if they're right, then that was awesome, you know, and then I was wrong, then I guess I'm gonna be in hell for eternity. But I mean, I
Like
don't think that a loving God would send me to hell, because I still think I'm still morally a good person. I've never killed anybody. You know, I try my best to be a good human, and if a loving God would send me to hell because I didn't worship Him, then that makes me like I wouldn't even want to be there in heaven anyway. Just send me to hell. I don't know.
you're starting to sound one of those satanic atheists that
Am
you're
I? Am
describing.
I? I don't know. I don't know.
Just messing with y'all. But what I wanted to make a point, but I lost my train of thought.
You lost it.
Yeah, Joe got
Yeah.
into a real good
I think
conversation.
your train is going off the tracks by now.
Who?
Yeah, yeah. I
Your
mean,
whole train.
Who?
your train's going off the
No,
track.
I
my
say
train is
your
good.
yeah, your whole train.
My
No, my
train.
train is. Yeah, she's talking to you,
I've been
Joe.
derailed. I've been derailed for the past 30 minutes, I think. So,
I think you are. I think you are.
uh,
Oh.
well, we have been going almost. We're going almost on 3 hours, guys. 3 hours. I
Hey,
didn't realize that.
let's get some comments down below. Or are y'all liking the stream? How was it?
Yeah, let us know. It seems
Yeah,
like we've had 6 people watching us for
yeah,
most of the stream, and we appreciate that,
that's
because
good.
I think we kind of went way off topic in terms of just talking about hallucinations, visions, and dreams, but
Yeah,
I think it's been some very good conversation. And I mean, that's what we want this channel to be all about. It's just kind of
Yeah.
just open talk, free talk, no judgment. I mean, it's been good.
and if you haven't subscribed to their channels yet, make sure to subscribe because they're interviewing Donald Trump next live stream.
Oh
So
my.
No, we're not. No thanks.
You're wild, Damien. You're wild. But
Yes.
actually, though,
So
if any of our viewers are into fishing, Damien actually has his own YouTube channel.
yeah.
You can follow him, CatchingMonsters 684, as listed there below his name on the screen. What was
Those
that?
that's
freaking cats.
probably the
That sounds like
cats.
the cats.
Yeah.
So yeah, follow him on his channel on YouTube, CatchingMonsters 684. I've actually been fishing with him, and I'll be fishing with him tomorrow morning. We'll be live out by the river somewhere, trying to catch some fish.
I thought it was gonna be a little lake
Oh
or
yeah,
pond.
we're gonna go.
Are we going to the river? Because I'm down.
Oh man.
So what do you think, AJ? Should we go ahead and bring this stream to an end? Because I'm getting kind of hungry again.
Right?
And
Yeah, my stomach's been
Yeah,
growling.
it looks like everybody's hungry. Yeah, I think we could. So remember that each one of us, I don't know which channel you guys are following from, but each one of us have below our name. You can see our channel name. Uh, Joe's
no, I got
is
it wrong.
Cognitive Echo. Then mine is Waste to Human, and then we have Damien over here is
Right here.
Catching Monsters.
Right there.
So
And we really appreciate everybody joining in this evening with us and spending 3 hours talking and discussing.
yeah,
What's wrong? What's wrong?
we actually have some. What's that? Somebody was screaming. No, everybody
The
good.
freaking the cat
No,
took
I was gonna
my
say that
foot.
we are actually planning on having some really cool guests in the future. Nobody cooler than Damien, of course, but
Hey, I try to be cool. I try to be myself. I'm a genuine person, so
Hey,
but
Ron, we
so
appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, we're hoping to have Kelly Laughlin and Eli, who are both from the 80s community of Austin, and you guys have seen them on Truth Wanted and nonprofits as well. Then we're gonna have Elliot Secular Rarity as well, and hopefully I'd like to talk to someone who is really knowledgeable in the human consciousness and the human mind. He's a British awesome presenter called Richard Gilliver, and he's also from AXP and Truth Wanted, and he agrees to be on our show to talk about the human brain. And
That's
that
gonna be fun. That's
Joe,
gonna be
yeah, I
real
thought
fun.
Joe will have a lot of questions for him, so that would be cool. So
I
these
do
are
have a
some
lot
of
of
the
questions.
future.
I
Yeah,
question everything. I'm still trying to learn.
yeah,
and
that's the
this
best
is
way to do it.
this is all happening this year, guys. Not gonna want to miss
Oh yeah, yeah. Hopefully,
So
like next
it.
few weeks.
Yeah. So
we appreciate you tuning in with us tonight, Rochester. I'm hoping I'm saying it right. You
hey,
commented. I've been an atheist since before all of you were even born, and honestly, until the last 10 years, it's been like living among another species. And uh, I can imagine that being you were probably one of the only ones during that being that 10 years ago. I mean, I
Well,
think
as a how?
things are
that's
luckily
crazy.
starting to change, and a lot of people more people are starting to open their mind. So I mean, it's definitely interesting. We do appreciate you hanging out with us though, and hopefully you join us for some future shows that we decide to do. We've enjoyed your interaction. Everybody actually that's been in the chat with us this evening. Thanks
Yeah.
for interacting and throwing comments our way.
And I guess, well, I'm gonna say some last words too.
Go ahead,
Y'all
Damon.
don't,
Yeah,
y'all don't get, y'all
We'll
don't
let
go
you
just
ahead.
get
end it.
last words.
We'll let you end it with your last words here.
Okay. And everybody, bottom line, everybody, appreciate each other, love each other, act like it's your last day of we have on this earth. And before this live stream, man, so everybody, hey, freaking cat, stop. Before this live stream ends, I wanted to say thank you for. I know I'm probably the only religious person here, and thank you for, just respecting my opinion. That's all I care about. One thing the two things I care about in this life is respect and honesty. That's all I care about. And if you give me
Yeah.
that, I can show the same towards y'all too. So, and also go watch the Human Centipede.
He said don't. He said don't.
I know.
Don't
I
watch
say
the Human
go. I
Centipede.
say go.
Don't
Go.
watch the Human Centipede.
Go watch it. It's well worth it. Trust me, guys.
Oh,
It's a great movie. It's a great movie.
just make sure you didn't just have dinner if you're gonna watch
Mhm.
it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But if you did have dinner, I don't know. You're
that's just
screwed.
bad advice.
Yeah.
Bad advice.
Yeah. Because
All
then
right.
you're gonna freaking poop on somebody else. But that's
We're gonna-
crazy.
We're gonna let it.
Yeah, complete
I've
it.
seen it. No, it's a not. See, there we go. I've seen it. No, it's not. That's
Exactly. No, it's a no. I've seen like bits and pieces, and that was enough. That I do not need to see the whole movie.
all right. Well, I'll let you go ahead and close out, AJ.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us in Love and Rage. And thank you, Damien, for being here. And thank you, Joseph, for being here. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for the love, guys.
All right, I was holding the biggest fart of my life, Joe.
You're still on.